A day in the life of a Roman gladiator. Spoiler, it's not fun. Welcome to your nightmare. You're about to experience the most miserable day of your life. A day as a Roman gladiator. Get comfortable, because the only comfort you'll find in the next few hours is in the familiarity of your own impending doom. Part 1. Awakening in Hell. The first sensation is pain. It crawls through your body before you're even fully conscious. A dull, throbbing ache that lives in your muscles, your joints, your very bones. For one blessed heartbeat, you exist in the liminal space between sleep and wakefulness, where reality hasn't yet sunk its teeth into you. Up, up, you worthless dogs! Up, meat! Your eyes snap open to near darkness, the world a blur of shadows, and the faint glow of torchlight bleeding through the tiny barred window of your cell. 8 feet by 10 feet of damp stone that you share with 2 other men. Home. The stench hits you like a physical blow, a noxious cocktail of unwashed bodies, festering wounds, stale urine, and the ever-present metallic tinge of blood. You've grown accustomed to it over the months, but that first conscious breath of the day always makes your stomach turn. Another day in paradise, mutters Darius from the straw mat beside yours. He's a Thracian, captured in battle 3 years ago. His body is a roadmap of scars, each telling the story of an arena fight he somehow survived. 9 bouts so far. Most men don't make it past 3. Darius sits up with a groan, his joints popping. At 32, he's ancient by gladiator standards. The average fighter only lives to their mid-20s. You're 24, and sometimes you catch Darius looking at you with something like envy for your younger body, less damaged by years of combat and training. Move your ass, he grunts, nudging your ribs with his foot. Doctor's in a mood today. The doctor, your trainer, was once a gladiator himself. Freedom was his reward for 12 victories in the arena. Now he trains new meat like you, channeling all the rage and trauma of his fighting years into making your life a living hell. You sit up, wincing as the half-healed wound on your thigh pulls tight. A souvenir from yesterday's training, a wooden sword that struck too hard, breaking the skin despite its blunted edge. The cut is red and angry, though thankfully not infected. Yet. Is it fighting day? Asks the third occupant of your cell, a boy no older than 17. His name is Caius, a former pickpocket sentenced to the ludus after being caught stealing from a senator. He's been here just 2 months and still hasn't grasped how irrelevant the passage of time is within these walls. It's always fighting. Day for someone, Darius replies. You rise from your pallet, every muscle screaming in protest. The stone floor is cold against your bare feet, a small shock that helps bring the world into sharper focus. You're in the Ludus Magnus, the great gladiatorial training school of Rome. Built by Emperor Domitian in the late 1st century CE, it sits adjacent to the Colosseum, connected by an underground passage. Through this tunnel, men walk to their potential deaths for the entertainment of Rome. The cell door swings open, revealing a burly guard armed with a wooden baton and a perpetual scowl. Out, he barks. Breakfast, then training. The corridor outside is lined with identical cells, each housing 3 or 4 gladiators. Some cells hold men who have fought in the arena multiple times, valuable investments who have proven their worth and their ability to survive. Others contain novices who have yet to spill blood for Rome's entertainment. The most wretched cells on the lowest level of the ludus house the condemned criminals who will fight without training, without hope, mere meat for the slaughter in all. The morning's warm-up executions, you file out with the others, shuffling along the narrow corridor. The ludus houses over 100 men of various backgrounds, captured soldiers like Darius, convicted criminals like Caius, enslaved men purchased specifically for the arena, and even a few desperate volunteers who signed contracts placing themselves in this hell in exchange for food, lodging, and the remote possibility of fame and fortune. Light grows as you approach the central courtyard. Dawn is breaking over Rome, the sky transitioning from black to deep purple to the blood orange of sunrise. The air is marginally fresher. Here, though still heavy with the smell of too many bodies confined in too small a space. "Look alive," mutters a voice behind you. "Lanister's watching." You glance up to see the owner of the ludus observing from a balcony above. Quintus Lentulus, Batiatus, a man who has never held a sword in combat but profits handsomely from those who do. His eyes sweep over his property, for that is what you are. Property, an investment, a walking, bleeding asset on his balance sheet, assessing and calculating. Who will fight well today? Who might die? Who needs further training before being risked in the arena? Each gladiator represents a significant investment, purchase price, food, medical care, training, and the lanista does not waste his assets lightly. You're directed to a long wooden table in the dining area. Breakfast is served in crude wooden bowls, a thick gruel of barley, beans, and oats. It's bland, stodgy, and barely warm, but you shovel it down with the wooden spoon provided. Gladiators were often called hordeari, barley men, because of this diet. "Gods, do you remember real food?" Caius asks wistfully, stirring his gruel. "Proper bread, olives, fish, wine?" "Shut up and eat," Darius replies without malice. "This slop keeps you alive." He's right. The diet is deliberate. The beans provide protein for muscle, while the barley and oats provide the energy needed for training and fighting. More importantly, this high carbohydrate diet builds a layer of protective fat under your skin. That subcutaneous padding will shield your blood vessels and nerves when you're slashed with a blade. In the arena, being lean is a disadvantage. It just means your vital organs are closer to your opponent's sword. "Who fights today?" someone asks. Names are murmured in response. Marcus the Mumillo, Atticus the Retiarius, Publius, a novice with only one fight under his belt. 8 men in total, scheduled to entertain the masses at the afternoon games. You glance at these men as they eat. Some appear calm, seemingly accepting whatever fate awaits them. Others betray their fear in small ways, trembling hands, darting eyes, the inability to eat. The veterans say you never lose the fear, you just get better at hiding it. The doctor enters, a tall man with a shaven head and a body that remains impressively muscled despite his 40 years. Scars crisscross his torso and limbs, each with its own story of arena survival. He carries a rod of flexible wood, a tool he uses liberally during training. "Eat up," he announces, voice echoing off the stone walls. "Some of you entertain the masses today, the rest will train until you wish." You were in the arena instead. You notice how the gladiators scheduled to fight today are given extra portions. The ludus wants them well fed before combat, partly so they have energy to put on a good show, but mostly because a well-fed gladiator with a layer of protective fat is a better investment. You eye the men around you, each representing a different gladiatorial type, each with specific weapons, armor, and fighting styles. Across from you sits Marcus, a Mumillo gladiator, known for his defensive fighting style. He wears a distinctive helmet with a fish-shaped crest. The word mumio comes from the Greek word for a type of saltwater fish. Mumiones are equipped with a large rectangular shield, scutum, a gladius sword, and are heavily armored on their right arm and legs. They're powerful but slow. Next to him is Atticus, a retiarius who fights with a weighted net, rete, and a three-pronged spear, tridens, attempting to entangle his opponents before stabbing them. The retiarius wears almost no armor, just a padded shoulder guard, galerus, on his left arm and a metal sleeve, manica, making him vulnerable but extremely mobile. At the end of the table sits Numerius, a secutor, pursuer, developed specifically to fight against the retiarius. His smooth, rounded helmet with tiny eye holes prevents the retiarius's net from catching, but severely limits his vision and makes breathing difficult during prolonged combat. You yourself are a Thraex, a Thracian-style gladiator, equipped with a small rectangular shield, palma, and a curved short sword called a seeker. Your helmet covers your entire face except for small eye holes, and you wear a protective sleeve of mail or leather on your right arm and metal guards, greaves, on your legs. As a Thraex, you're typically pitted against a mumio in a stylized battle between a foreign warrior and a Roman. Finished? The doctor barks. Good. Fighting men to the armory for preparation. The rest of you dogs to the training yard. Now! As you rise, you catch the eye of Publius, the novice scheduled to fight today. His face is ashen, eyes wide with barely contained terror. He's 19, convicted of participating in a tavern brawl that resulted in a patrician's son being injured. His first fight ended in a draw. Neither he nor his opponent impressed the crowd enough to warrant death, but neither distinguished themselves enough to earn praise. Keep your shield up, you tell him quietly as you pass. Watch his eyes, not his weapon. He nods gratefully, but you can see your words barely penetrate his fear. The reality of the arena cannot be taught, only experienced, and many never live to benefit from that experience. The Roman dawn continues to brighten as you're herded into the training yard. Another day begins in the ludus. Another day of pain, fear, and brutality. Another day closer to your own inevitable date with the arena. Welcome to the life of a Roman gladiator. And that's just the beginning. Part 2, the morning training, learning to die gracefully. The training yard stretches before you, a rectangular expanse of packed sand roughly half the size of the Colosseum's arena. Unlike the grand amphitheater, however, there are no cheering crowds here, only the grim-faced doctors, the lanista watching from his balcony, and your fellow gladiators. The morning sun casts long shadows across the sand, but already the heat builds, promising another sweltering day. Form up by type, the head doctor shouts. Myrmione's here, Thrace's there, Retiari by the posts. You move to join the other, Thraces. There are 8 of you in total. The ludus organizes training by gladiator type, each with its own specialized instructor. Your trainer, Sextus, is a former Thraex who survived 15 bouts before a leg injury forced his retirement. His face is a permanent mask of contempt, as if the very sight of his pupils disgusts him. Pathetic, he spits, looking you over. If I were to throw you in the arena today, you'd die before drawing your first breath. This is his daily greeting. You've learned not to take it personally. Training weapons are handed out. Wooden swords, rudes, deliberately weighted to be heavier than the metal weapons you'll use in actual combat. This builds strength and makes the real sword feel lighter when the time comes. Your practice shield is also heavier than regulation, forcing your arm muscles to develop the endurance needed for prolonged combat. Begin with the palace, Sextus orders, pointing to the wooden posts embedded in the sand. The palus, a wooden post standing about 6 feet tall, is your first opponent of the day. You strike at it with your wooden sword, practicing the standard 3x attacks: overhead, slash, side cut, upward thrust. The post doesn't fight back, but the repetitive motion builds muscle memory that might save your life in the arena. Higher cuts, Sextus barks, striking your calf with his rod when your form slips. A Murmillo's armor protects his torso. You aim for the neck, the face, the unarmored thigh. The pain shoots up your leg, but you don't falter in your rhythm. Show weakness, and Sextus will only strike harder. Around the yard, other gladiator types engage in their own specialized training. The Retiarii practice casting their nets at suspended targets, then quickly following with their trident thrusts. The Myrmiones work on shield walls and counterattacks. The Secutores run in full armor, building the stamina they'll need when pursuing the agile Retiarii around the arena. Again, Sextus shouts. 50 strikes, then switch arms. Your right arm already burns with fatigue, but you push through the pain. The ancient Greek physician Galen, who served as doctor to gladiators in Pergamon during the 2nd century, noted that gladiatorial training followed a system called the tetras, a 4-day cycle consisting of preparation on the first day, intensive training on the second, rest on the third, and moderate activity on the fourth. Today is clearly an intensive day. Sweat pours down your face inside the confines of your helmet, stinging your eyes and making it difficult to see. The practice helmets are designed to be even more restrictive than battle helmets, training you to fight with limited vision and uncomfortable breathing. If you can fight effectively half-blind and gasping for air, you might survive when conditions are marginally better in the arena. Pair up, Sextus orders after an hour at the Palus. Show me what you've learned, if anything. You're paired with Titus, another Thraex who arrived at the Ludus 2 months before you. He's slightly taller but shares your build, quick rather than powerful. You've trained together often enough to know each other's tendencies. Begin! Sextus shouts. You circle each other warily. Despite being practice bouts with blunted weapons, these sparring sessions often result in real injuries. Broken fingers, cracked ribs, dislocated shoulders, all are common occurrences. The doctors encourage a certain level of controlled violence. After all, you're training for lethal combat. Titus attacks first, his wooden sword arcing toward your head. You raise your shield, deflecting the blow, then counter with a thrust toward his exposed thigh. He twists away, but not before the tip of your practice sword brushes his skin, a touch that would have drawn blood in the arena. Good, Sextus calls, surprising you with the rare praise. Now finish him. The sparring continues for several minutes, neither of you gaining a clear advantage. Your muscles scream with exertion, but you push through the pain. In the arena, fatigue equals death. You must train your body to function even when every fiber begs for rest. Around you, similar combats unfold between other pairs. Some are evenly matched, while others are deliberately unbalanced. Veterans pitted against novices to teach the newcomers harsh but necessary lessons. A shout draws your attention briefly. One of the newer gladiators lies in the sand, clutching his arm at an unnatural angle. A broken bone. The medicus approaches calmly. Injuries are so commonplace they barely interrupt the day's routine.
Focus! Sextus snaps, striking your shoulder with his rod. In the arena, that moment of distraction would have cost you your life. The morning progresses in a brutal rhythm of individual exercises and paired combat. The sun climbs higher, beating
Down mercilessly. By midday, your tunic is soaked through with sweat, your muscles trembling with exhaustion, but there is no respite, not yet. Water break, Sextus finally announces. 2 minutes, then shield drills. You gulp water from a communal ladle, careful not to drink too much too quickly. That would only lead to cramps. Beside you, Darius does the same, his weathered face flushed with exertion despite his veteran status. The new boy has potential, he comments, nodding toward Caius, who trains with the other novices at the far end of the yard. If he lives long enough to use it, you reply. While you drink, you observe the social hierarchy of the ludus in action around you. At the top are the veterans, men who have survived multiple arena bouts and earned the respect of both their fellow gladiators and the Roman public. They receive better food, more comfortable sleeping arrangements, and occasionally even limited freedom to leave the ludus under guard. Some have female visitors, admiring fans from the city who are drawn to their celebrity status. Below them are the mid-tier, fighters, men like you, who have trained extensively but have limited arena experience. You're valuable enough to warrant decent treatment, but expendable enough to be risked in combat against challenging opponents. At the bottom are the novices and the damnati, criminals condemned to the arena who receive minimal training before being thrown into combat, often against animals or in deliberately mismatched fights designed to ensure their deaths as public punishment. "Shields up!" Sextus bellows. "Form the testudo!" You and the other threeses form the tortoise formation, a defensive wall of overlapping shields originally used by Roman legionaries in battle. While not directly applicable to one-on-one gladiatorial combat, the exercise builds shoulder strength
and teaches shield discipline. "Hold!" Sextus orders, as he and the other trainers walk along the formation, striking shields with wooden batons. Each impact sends shockwaves through your already exhausted arm.
"Imagine this is how you'll feel in the 5th minute of combat," Sextus says, his voice carrying across the yard. When your shield arm burns, when your lungs scream for air, when your opponent is still fresh because he's been pacing himself while you've been flailing like a fish on land, that's when you'll die, not from his skill but from your own weakness. The physical training of gladiators was complemented by psychological conditioning. The doctors didn't just teach fighting techniques, they instilled mental toughness, the ability to endure pain, to face fear, to maintain composure even when death seemed imminent. "Pair up again," Sextus orders after the shield drill. "Different opponents this time. Prove to me you're worth the food you consume." As the morning training continues, you notice the gladiators scheduled to fight today being led away from the main group. They'll undergo a different routine, lighter exercise to keep them limber without exhausting them before their arena appearance. Special medical attention to ensure any minor injuries won't hamper their performance, and mental preparation with the lanista, who will brief them on their opponents and strategies. The remainder of the morning is devoted to specific combat techniques. For you and the other threeses, this means practicing the curved, slashing attacks that define your fighting style. The Seeker Sword's curved blade is designed to hook around an opponent's shield or strike at angles that bypass straight defenses. The Seeker is not a Roman weapon, Sextus explains for perhaps the 100th time. It is a barbarian blade, fitting for the barbarian you portray. The crowd doesn't just come to see fighting, they come to see the story of Rome's dominance over foreign enemies. You are that enemy. You are Thrace incarnate, wild and dangerous, but ultimately destined to fall before Roman might. This theatrical element of gladiatorial combat is often overlooked in popular depictions. Each gladiator type represented specific historical or cultural archetypes, and bouts were staged to reenact Rome's victories over various peoples. The heavily armoured Mumia represented the quintessential Roman legionary, while the Thraex embodied the exotic Thracian warrior. Their confrontation in the arena symbolized Rome's historical conflicts with the tribes of Thrace. As noon approaches, the training intensifies rather than tapering off. The doctors push you to your absolute limits, then beyond. Men collapse from exhaustion only to be dragged to their feet and forced to continue. Vomiting from overexertion is common, met with contempt rather than sympathy. In the arena, there is only victory or death, the head doctor shouts. Your fatigue means nothing.
Your pain means nothing, only survival matters.
Finally, as the sun reaches its zenith, the morning training session ends. The horns sound from the city, announcing noon, and, in a few hours, the start of the day's games. The men scheduled to fight have already been prepared and will soon begin their procession to the arena. Clean yourselves, Sextus orders. Midday meal, then afternoon training. You follow the others to the washing area, a series of water troughs where you can rinse the worst of the sweat and sand from your body. There are no private baths for common gladiators. Those luxuries are reserved for the elite fighters who have won the crowd's adoration and the Lannista's favor. As you splash water on your face, you overhear two guards discussing the day's games. Should be a good show, one says. The sponsors spared no expense. Exotic animals from Africa in the morning, condemned criminals at midday, then the gladiator bouts. Any wagering recommendations? Asks the other. Put your denarii on Marcus. 3 bouts undefeated, and today he faces a novice. And the boy? Publius? What are his odds? A snort of derision. Save your money! He'll be dead before the horn sounds. The end of the first exchange. You think of Publius, the nervous young man eating his last meal before combat. The odds are indeed against him, a novice with one unremarkable bout, facing an experienced gladiator. Yet miracles sometimes happen in the arena. Skill matters, but so does luck, and occasionally the gods smile even on the least favored. You finish washing and move toward the dining area for the midday meal. Your muscles ache, your recent wound throbs, and you know the afternoon training will be just as brutal as the morning session. But you're still alive, still unbroken, still learning the skills that might, just might, allow you to survive when your own time in the arena comes, and that time is coming soon. You've been at the Ludus for 6 months. Your first arena bout is scheduled for next week's games. The doctor says you're ready, but you know the truth. No one is ever truly ready for the arena. As you take your place at the long wooden table, waiting for the simple midday meal of bread, olives, and watered wine, you glance around at your fellow gladiators. Some bear the confident demeanor of veterans, others the haunted look of men who have seen too much death. All carry the knowledge that their next bout could be their last. This is the brutal reality of the gladiator's existence. Constant training for a moment of combat that might end in death, all for the entertainment of Rome. The afternoon's training awaits, but first, a brief respite to refuel your exhausted body. Part 3, Midday Politics, the hierarchy of the doomed. The midday meal is sparse but calculated, enough to replenish your energy without causing sluggishness for the afternoon. Training, coarse bread, olives, a thin vegetable broth, and watered wine. The wine isn't for pleasure but practicality. The alcohol helps dull the constant pain of training injuries while the water rehydrates. The Romans understood that proper nutrition was essential for their fighting investment. Heard an interesting rumor, Darius says quietly, leaning toward you. Next month's games might feature something special. What kind of special? You ask, tearing off a chunk of bread. Female gladiators, he replies. Apparently the sponsor wants novelty to impress the crowd. Your eyebrows rise. Female gladiators, or gladiatrices as modern scholars call them, are rare but not unheard of. Historical texts describe women fighting as gladiators as early as the 1st century BCE, though the practice was controversial even in Rome's blood-soaked culture. The Senate tried to ban high-born women from the arena, you recall, having heard this from an educated Greek slave who works as a record keeper for the ludus. Didn't stop them, though. Laws rarely do when there's glory and coin to be had. Darius chuckles. Remember that relief they found in Halicarnassus? 2 female fighters named Amazon and Achillea. Fought to a draw, apparently, which means they were skilled enough to impress. The marble relief he mentions, now housed in the British Museum, is one of the few surviving artworks that clearly depicts female gladiators in combat. "Would you fight a woman?" asks Caius, who has been listening intently. "I'd fight whoever they put in front of me," Darius replies matter-of-factly. "In the arena there's no man or woman, only the opponent who's trying to kill you." Female gladiators typically fought topless, adding an erotic element that both titillated and scandalized Roman audiences. Emperor Domitian was said to have staged fights between women and dwarfs, a deliberately provocative spectacle meant to subvert normal gender roles and expectations. Your conversation is interrupted by increased activity near the entrance to the dining hall. The lanista Batiatus enters with several well-dressed visitors, wealthy Romans touring the ludus, perhaps looking to place bets on upcoming fights, or even to purchase gladiators for their own games. "Remember, smile and look fierce," Darius mutters. Potential sponsors. The visitors stroll between the tables, examining the gladiators like livestock at market. You straighten your posture, attempting to project strength and confidence despite your exhaustion. Being noticed by a wealthy patron could mean better treatment, more prestigious fights, even potential freedom if you impress them enough in the arena. "This one shows promise," says one visitor, stopping behind you. "A Thraex, correct? Good physique, suitable aggression in his eyes." "Indeed, Dominus," Batiatus responds smoothly. "New acquisition, but progressing rapidly. First arena appearance, next week at the Games honoring the consul's birthday." The visitor, a portly man wearing an expensive toga with a purple stripe indicating senatorial rank, makes a contemplative noise. "Perhaps worth a wager. Has he killed before?" "Not in the
arena," Batiatus replies.
"But he was a soldier before his capture, no stranger to blood." This casual discussion of your life and death prospects isn't unusual. Gladiators existed in a strange social limbo, simultaneously celebrated and despised. You were both entertainer and slave, potential celebrity, and disposable commodity. As the visitors continue their tour, your attention turns to the far end of the dining hall, where the day's fighters eat separately. Their meal is richer: meat, fruits, white bread, undiluted, wine. This special pre-combat meal serves multiple purposes. It provides energy for the fight ahead, builds the protective layer of fat that might save their lives, and offers a final pleasure before potential death. "The last meal," Caius whispers, following your gaze. "Like condemned men, some of them will return," you reply, though you know the odds. Based on historical records from Pompeii, perhaps 1 in 5 fights might end in death. But those are averages. For novices like Publius, the danger is far greater. As the meal concludes, you notice different activities unfolding across the ludus. The fighters scheduled for today's games are led away for final preparations, while the rest of you prepare for afternoon training. But there's a brief period, perhaps an hour, of relative freedom within the confines of the ludus. This unstructured time reveals the complex social ecosystem that exists among the gladiators. Despite being forced to potentially kill one another, in the arena, a strong sense of brotherhood permeates the community. Gladiators formed collegia, associations, with elected leaders and their own burial societies to ensure fallen comrades received proper funerals. In one corner, a group plays knucklebones, a dice game using sheep ankle bones. Small wagers change hands, not money, which gladiators aren't permitted to possess, but favors, extra food, or small luxuries smuggled in by sympathetic guards. Elsewhere, a veteran named Spartus gives informal instruction to several novices, demonstrating subtle techniques not taught in formal training. This knowledge transfer is vital. The official training teaches you to fight, but these casual lessons teach you to survive. Near the water barrel, two men argue quietly over perceived disrespect during morning training. Such conflicts are common in the pressure cooker environment of the ludus, but rarely escalate to serious violence outside the arena. The gladiators understand that they face enough dangers without creating more among themselves. You find yourself drawn to a small group, listening to Milo, an older gladiator, who serves as the unofficial historian of the ludus. He claims to have once fought in the Colosseum before Emperor Trajan himself, though some doubt his story. Most think we're just brutes with swords, he's saying as you join the circle. But the games are more complex than the public understands. They began as funeral rites, you know. When important men died, slaves would fight to the death at their graves, blood sacrificed to honor the deceased. This is historically accurate. The first recorded gladiatorial games in Rome occurred in 264 BCE when the sons of Junius Brutus Pera staged a combat between three pairs of gladiators to honor their father's funeral. It was only later that they became public entertainment, Milo continues. And political tools. Remember that when you fight, you're not just trying to survive, you're performing in a grand political theater. Indeed, gladiatorial games served essential political functions in Roman society. Sponsoring games, which could cost a fortune, demonstrated a politician's wealth, generosity, and commitment to public entertainment. Emperors used the games to boost popularity and distract the public from economic or military problems. The phrase bread and circuses, panem et circenses, encapsulated this strategy of keeping the Roman populace satisfied with food and entertainment. And remember, Milo adds, lowering his voice, survival isn't just about fighting skill, it's about entertaining the crowd. A mediocre fighter who excites the audience has better odds than a skilled boor who puts them to sleep. This was the brutal calculus of the arena. Victory didn't guarantee survival, nor did defeat necessarily mean
death.
The crowd's favor could save a defeated but entertaining gladiator, while their disapproval might doom even a victorious one who fought without flair. Your attention is drawn to the main gate, where several new arrivals are being processed. Fresh recruits for the gladiator school. They stand in a line, chained together, their faces displaying varying degrees of fear, defiance, and despair. You recognize the look. You wore it yourself 6 months ago. New meat, Darius comments, coming to stand beside you. Wonder how many will last the month. The training mortality rate could be high. Some men died not in the glory of the arena, but from training accidents, infections from untreated wounds, or disease in the crowded conditions of the ludus when The newcomers, you notice something unusual, a woman head-high despite her chains. Female gladiators were extremely rare, and their training was typically conducted separately from men. Interesting, Darius murmurs. Seems the rumors were true. Before you can respond, a loud gong sounds, signaling the end of the break period and the beginning of afternoon preparations. For those fighting today, this means the final rituals before combat. For the rest, it means returning to training. You move with the others toward the training yard, but your path takes you past the preparation area, where today's fighters are undergoing their final transformations from men into arena spectacles. Their routine is precise and ritualistic. First, their bodies are oiled to make them gleam under the arena sun and to make them harder for opponents to grab. Their hair is styled, some elaborate, others ritually shaved, and cosmetics are applied to make their features visible from the distant seats. The armorer fits them with their actual combat equipment, not the heavier practice gear used in training. Real metal swords are blessed, tested for balance, and carefully edged. Sharp enough to cut, but not so sharp as to end fights too quickly. The crowd wants blood and spectacle, not instant death. Medical attendants perform their own preparations, checking wounds from previous training, applying protective bandages to vulnerable areas, and providing medicines. Some fighters receive stimulants or pain dullers, others prefer to fight with clear heads, despite the pain. Most poignant are the personal rituals. Some men pray to their chosen deities. Hercules and Mars are popular among gladiators, though some favor Nemesis, goddess of fate. Others write brief messages to family members in case they don't return. A few simply sit in silence, mentally, preparing for what's to come. Keep your guard up, Publius, you hear a veteran advising the nervous novice. Priscus likes to feint high, then strike low. Watch for the tell in his left shoulder. It tenses before he attacks. This transfer of knowledge might save the young man's life, though the odds remain steeply against him. The great doors to the arena tunnel swing open, flooding the preparation area with light. Outside, you can hear the distant roar of the gathering crowd. The procession will begin soon, the pompa, the formal parade that introduces the day's fighters to the audience.
Form up, barks the master of ceremonies. Procession order, musicians first, then standard bearers, then fighters by pair. You catch a final glimpse of Publius as he takes his place in the line. His face is set in a mask of determined calm, though his eyes betray his fear.
He sees you watching and gives a slight nod, acknowledgement between men who share the same fate, just on different days. The gladiators file out into the sunlight, heading toward the arena and whatever fate awaits them there. You and the others are herded back to the training yard for the afternoon session. As you walk, Darius speaks quietly beside you. Watch and learn from their fights if they return. Every bout you observe is a lesson that might save your life when your turn comes. The afternoon sun beats down mercilessly as you take your position for the next grueling session. But your mind remains with Publius and the others, now marching toward the arena where life and death hang on the whim of the crowd. This is the complex reality of the ludus, a place where men simultaneously prepare to kill each other and form bonds of brotherhood, where brutal training and political spectacle intersect, where death is always one misstep away. The balance of your day stretches before you, more training, more pain, more preparation for your own inevitable date with the arena sand. Part 4. Afternoon. Shadows. Training in the echo of combat. The afternoon sun hangs like a copper disk in the hazy sky, casting shortened shadows across the training yard. Though you're physically present in the ludus, your mind keeps drifting toward the Colosseum, where your comrades now face their moment of truth. The distant roars of the crowd carry over the city walls, rising and falling like the tide, a sonic barometer of the spectacle unfolding in the arena. "Focus, dog!" Sextus snaps, striking your calf with his rod. Your mind wanders, and in the arena, That means death. The afternoon training is different from the morning regimen. Where the morning focused on fundamentals and endurance, the afternoon emphasizes technique, speed, and tactical thinking. The body is already fatigued, deliberately so, forcing you to fight through exhaustion as you would in a real bout. Pairs, Sextus calls. Thraces against Myrmilones, authentic matchups only. This is the most valuable training, fighting against the gladiator type you'll most likely face in the arena. As a Thraex, you're typically matched against a Myrmilo, your fighting styles designed to create an entertaining contest representing the historical conflict between Rome and the barbarian lands. You're paired with Lucius, an experienced Myrmilo with a reputation for brutality, even in practice. He grins at you through the bars of his practice helmet, twirling his wooden gladius with casual expertise. "Try not to bleed too much, Thracian," he taunts. "I'd hate to slip on your blood." The doctors move among the pairs, providing final instructions before the sparring begins. "Remember," Sextus tells the group, "this isn't just about striking your opponent. It's about presenting a spectacle. The crowd doesn't pay to see two men hacking at each other like butchers. They want drama, skill, the dance of death." This theatrical element is often overlooked in modern depictions of gladiatorial combat. While the danger and violence were very real, gladiators were also performers who understood the importance of entertaining the audience. At the signal, you and Lucius begin circling each other. Your curved seeker sword gives you different attacking angles than his straight gladius, but his large rectangular shield provides superior coverage. This asymmetry is deliberate. Each gladiator type has advantages and disadvantages, creating tactical depth to the combat. Lucius attacks first, shield forward in the classic Myrmilo style, sword stabbing around its edge. You deflect with your smaller shield, then use your seeker's curve to hook around his defenses, landing a touch on his shoulder. "Point!" calls the watching doctor. "Reset!" A massive cheer erupts from the direction of the Colosseum, so loud it penetrates even the ludus walls.
Everyone pauses, heads turning instinctively toward the sound. "Something significant just happened," murmurs Darius, who's sparring nearby. "Back to work," Sextus shouts, but even he seems disturbed by the intensity of the crowd's reaction. Their fate is their own. Yours is here.
As the practice continues, you can't help wondering what triggered such a response from the crowd. Was it the death of one of your comrades, a particularly impressive victory? The uncertainty gnaws at you, a reminder of how quickly fortunes can change in the arena. During a water break, you overhear two guards discussing the games. "Messenger just arrived," one says quietly. "The Retiarius, Atticus, dead. Caught a gladius through the throat after his net throw missed." "Bad luck," the other replies. "He was favoured 3-1. And the sponsor lost a fortune on him. They say he's in a rage, demanding more blood in the remaining bouts." This is another reality of gladiatorial combat, the massive gambling that accompanied it. Fortunes were won and lost on arena outcomes, creating pressure on the editor, game's sponsor, and the lanista to ensure entertaining but somewhat predictable matchups. "Back to it," Sextus calls. "Next drill, response to a fallen opponent." This exercise is unique to gladiatorial training and explicitly theatrical. When an opponent falls in combat, the victorious gladiator must follow specific protocols, not rushing in for the kill, but stepping back to allow the referee, summa rudis, to check the fallen fighter, and, if necessary, to let the editor and crowd decide his fate. "You've struck your opponent down," Sextus explains. "What next? Do you immediately finish him?" "No, you stand back, salute the editor, acknowledge the crowd. You are not just a killer, you are an entertainer, a professional. The crowd doesn't want simple butchery, they want the drama of the moment, the power of choice. The practice that follows is oddly ceremonial. One man plays the victorious gladiator, another the defeated. The victor practices the traditional salute and crowd acknowledgement, while the defeated practices both submission signals, typically raising a finger, and the stoic acceptance of the death blow if mercy is not granted.
No, no, Sextus barks at one pair. The death stroke is precise, between the shoulder blades, angled up toward the heart. Clean, quick, merciful. This isn't a slaughterhouse, it's an honourable death. Despite the brutality of the games, there
Was a strange code of honour that governed how death was administered in the arena. A proper death stroke was considered a mark of respect between gladiators. As this macabre rehearsal continues, another messenger arrives from the arena, speaking urgently to the lanista, who watches from his usual balcony. Even from a distance, you can see Batiatus's expression darken before he turns and disappears inside. "What now?" you ask Darius when you're briefly paired for an exercise. "Bad news, judging by the lanista's face," he replies, pretending to demonstrate a blocking technique.
while actually conversing.
Probably another casualty. Your thoughts turn to Publius, the nervous young fighter. Has his short career already ended in the blood-soaked sand of the arena? As the afternoon progresses, the training intensifies. The doctors seem determined to push you beyond your limits, perhaps driven by news from the arena. Physical exhaustion has its own value in gladiatorial training, teaching you to function through pain, to make decisions when your body screams for rest, to maintain technique when your muscles fail. In the arena, Sextus constantly reminds you, the man who tires first usually dies first. Historical evidence suggests gladiatorial training was remarkably sophisticated, incorporating elements similar to modern sports conditioning. The Tetras system mentioned earlier alternated intensive training with recovery periods, understanding that muscles needed time to rebuild. The sun begins its westward descent, but training shows no sign of concluding. Several men have collapsed, from exhaustion only to be dragged back to their feet by unsympathetic doctors. One vomits from overexertion, earning only contempt rather than respite. "If you vomit in the arena," Sextus tells him coldly, "you give your opponent a moment of advantage that will cost you your life." Another sound carries from the Colosseum. Trumpets signaling the conclusion of the day's games. The surviving gladiators will soon return to the ludus, bringing with them stories of the day's events and, inevitably, news of who will not be returning. "Final exercise," the head doctor calls. "Endurance circuit. Move." The endurance circuit is perhaps the most dreaded training activity, a series of stations around the yard, each featuring a different exhausting exercise. Running with weights, striking the palus at full power, shield drills, climbing ropes, all performed in sequence without rest. It's deliberately designed to push you beyond what you believe possible, preparing you for the extreme demands of arena combat. You move through the stations mechanically, your body operating on instinct, while your mind remains fixated on the returning gladiators. Will Publius be among them? What stories will they bring? How did the crowd respond? These questions cycle through your thoughts as you push your battered body through the final, punishing exercises. Finally, as you're completing the circuit, the main gates to the training yard swing open. The surviving gladiators from today's games enter, accompanied by guards and medical attendants. They are a battered group, limping, bandaged, exhausted, but alive. Their faces show the strange mixture of emotions common to arena survivors: relief, trauma, elation, and a hollow emptiness that comes from brushing against death. Training halts as they enter, an unofficial but universally observed moment of respect. These men have faced what you all train for, have looked into the abyss of the arena and returned. Even Sextus stands silent, his rod temporarily lowered. You scan the returnees anxiously, counting faces, noting absences.
Atticus is gone, as you'd heard. So is Numerius, a secutor who had survived 3 previous bouts. And your heart sinks. There's no sign of young Publius among the returning fighters. Back to the circuit, Sextus finally barks, breaking their moment. Their day is done. Yours continues. But as you turn back to your training, Marcus, the veteran Mamillo who was considered a safe bet for victory, approaches Sextus and speaks quietly to him.
The doctor's face shows surprise, then a rare smile. He nods and turns to the training gladiators. "Enough for today," he announces. "To the baths, then evening meal." This unexpected mercy suggests significant news from the arena, either very good or very bad for the ludus. You'll have to wait to discover which. As you follow the others toward the washing area, Darius falls in beside you, his face unusually animated. "Heard from Titus," he says quietly. "The boy lived." "Publius?" you ask, surprised. "Against Priscus. How?" "Luck, partly. Priscus slipped in a pool of blood from an earlier bout. But the boy capitalized well, showing unexpected skill. Wounded Priscus in the leg, then yielded to the summa rudis rather than finishing him, a show of mercy that impressed the crowd. Both were spared. The editor even awarded Publius a small purse for exceeding expectations. This outcome was rare but not unprecedented. Occasionally, a massive underdog would surprise everyone with an impressive showing. Such unexpected drama was precisely what made the games so captivating to Roman audiences. "There's more," Darius continues, lowering his voice further. "The sponsor was so pleased with the overall spectacle that he's commissioned additional games next month and specifically requested fighters from our ludus. Gladiator is ecstatic. This is significant news. More games mean more opportunities for glory, more chances at survival, potentially even freedom for exceptionally successful gladiators. But it also means more risk, more death. The atmosphere in the ludus has transformed with the return of the arena fighters and the news of future games. Where the morning was tense with dread, the evening buzzes with a strange energy, part relief, part excitement, part morbid curiosity about the day's events. In the dining hall, the returning gladiators are treated as celebrities, surrounded by their comrades eager for details of the arena experience. Their meals are generous, their wine undiluted, rewards for survival and recognition of their ordeal. Publius sits among them, his left arm bandaged, but his face glowing with the special light of a man who has faced death and emerged victorious. When he sees you, he raises his cup slightly in acknowledgement of your earlier advice.
"I kept my shield up," he mouths with a grin. As you eat your evening meal, more substantial than lunch but still primarily vegetarian, the stories from the arena flow freely around you. Each bout is dissected in detail, every tactic analyzed.
Every crowd reaction noted. This is not mere gossip. It's valuable intelligence that might save your life when your turn comes in the arena. You learn that the massive cheer you heard during afternoon training was indeed for Publius, the moment when he capitalized on Priscus's fall to land a clean cut on the veteran's thigh. You learn that Atticus died because his net throw was too ambitious, leaving him exposed to his opponent's counterattack. You learn that Numerius fought well but lost to a superior secutor who mercifully delivered a clean death stroke when the crowd gave the fatal signal. These details are absorbed by everyone present, mentally filed away. as lessons that might prove crucial in future bouts. The gladiator's life is one of constant learning. Every observed fight is a potential textbook for survival. The meal is interrupted by the arrival of Batiatus, the lanista, accompanied by several richly dressed visitors, the same potential sponsors who toured earlier now returning after watching the day's games. Their presence at this hour is unusual and significant. "My warriors," Batiatus announces grandly. "Our noble guests were so impressed by today's performances that they wish to meet those who train alongside our arena champions. They sponsor the games for 3 weeks hence and seek worthy fighters for the prime matchups." This is the political economy of gladiatorial combat laid bare. Wealthy patrons shopping for the best entertainment value, the lanista showcasing his product, and you, the gladiators, simultaneously merchandise and performers in this bloody transaction. The sponsors move through the dining hall, studying the gladiators with calculating eyes. They ask questions about fighting styles, victory records, physical condition. They examine scars, test muscle tone, assess psychological readiness. It's dehumanizing yet oddly validating. Your worth as a commodity directly reflects your potential as a fighter. The portly senator who noted you earlier approaches your table again, his eyes narrowing as he studies you more carefully. "This one," he says to Batiatus, pointing at you. "The Thraex. I want him in the opening bout 3 weeks from now. Pair him against the Mumio from Capua's Ludus. What's his name? Gallus." Batiatus smiles smoothly, though you detect a flicker of concern in his eyes. "An excellent choice, Dominus. Though Gallus is quite experienced. 3 victories, I believe." "Precisely," the senator replies. "A test of your training methods. If your Thrax performs well, I'll consider more of your fighters for the main games at the Harvest Festival. A significant opportunity for your Ludus, Batiatus. And just like that, your fate is sealed. In 3 weeks, you will face Gallus, a veteran Murmillo with 3 arena victories in your first professional bout. The sponsor has essentially set you up as an underdog, a test subject whose performance will determine future business relationships." Darius waits until the sponsors have moved out of earshot before speaking. "Gallus," he says thoughtfully, "I've seen him fight. Quick for a Murmillo, favors his right side, aggressive early, tends to tire by the 3rd exchange if you can weather his initial assault. This is valuable intelligence, the kind that might make the difference between life and
death."
Gladiators often shared information about potential opponents, another aspect of the Brotherhood that existed despite the competitive nature of their profession. As the evening meal concludes and the gladiators prepare to return to their cells, for the night you find yourself approached by Publius. His earlier bravado has faded, replaced by a more subdued demeanor that suggests he's still processing his arena experience. "It wasn't what I expected," he says quietly. "The noise, you can't prepare for it. 50,000 voices becoming one roar that you feel in your chest more than hear with your ears. The sand shifting under your feet. The way time seems to stretch and compress simultaneously." "And the fighting itself?" you ask. "Different from training," he replies, his eyes distant. "Every movement matters more. Every mistake could be final, but also clearer somehow, as if everything beyond the arena faded away, and all that existed was me, my opponent, and the space between us." This description matches accounts from other gladiators you've spoken with, the strange clarity that comes in life or death situations, the hyper-focus that excludes everything except the immediate threat. "I'm glad you survived," you tell him.
Simply. He smiles faintly. "Thanks to your advice. Keep your shield up." Watch his eyes, not his weapon. It saved me when Priscus fainted toward my legs but was looking at my neck for the real strike. As you're herded back toward your cell, your
mind is consumed with thoughts of your upcoming bout. 3 weeks. 21 days to prepare for Gallus, to absorb every piece of intelligence about his fighting style, to hone your skills beyond their current level. The cell door clangs shut behind you, plunging you back into the familiar darkness. Darius settles
onto his pallet with a groan, his body still recovering from the day's training.
"So?" he says into the darkness. "Gallus?" "Yes," you reply. "Any other insights?" "We'll talk strategy tomorrow," he promises. "For now, rest. From tomorrow, your real training begins." As you lie on your thin mat, staring up at the darkness, the day's events cycle through your mind. The brutal training, the news from the arena, the sponsor's casual selection of you for combat, the first-hand accounts of arena realities from returning fighters. In 3 weeks, you'll walk the same path Publius and the others walk today. You'll don real armor instead of practice gear, carry a real sword instead of a wooden Rudy's, feel the same sun, sand, and overwhelming noise they described. And at day's end, you'll either return to this cell with new knowledge and experiences, or you'll become another statistic, another name briefly mentioned before being forgotten. Such is the life of a Roman gladiator, suspended perpetually between grueling preparation and potentially fatal performance, between the brotherhood of the ludus and the isolation of arena combat, between the status of celebrated entertainer and disposable slave. Sleep eventually claims you, your exhausted body overriding your racing mind. Tomorrow will bring more training, more pain, more preparation. 21 days until the arena. 21 days until you discover whether you live or die for the entertainment of Rome. Part 5, The Countdown. 21 days of reckoning. The next 3 weeks unfold in a brutal rhythm of specialized training, strategic preparation, and growing anticipation. Being selected for a specific bout changes everything. Your training, your diet, your treatment, your entire status within the ludus hierarchy. "Up!" barks the guard earlier than usual. Gladiator wants the arena fighters in the special training yard. Now! Day 1 begins differently. Instead of joining the general population for morning exercises, you and 7 other men scheduled for the upcoming games are separated out, a specialized cohort receiving specialized attention. The investment in you has increased now that you're scheduled to represent the ludus in public. Your success or failure will reflect directly on Batiatus's business and reputation. "Welcome to hell," says the senior doctor, a scarred veteran named Pollux who only trains arena-bound fighters. "Regular training prepares you to fight. I prepare you to survive." The special training yard is smaller but better equipped, with actual metal weapons, blunted for safety but authentic in weight and balance, proper arena sand imported from the Colosseum itself, and even a raised platform mimicking the slight elevation of the actual fighting surface. "For the next 3 weeks, you belong to me," Pollux explains. "We train specifically for your opponents. We train for the conditions you'll face. We train for every contingency, every scenario. By the time you enter that arena, you'll have already fought this battle 100 times in your mind." This specialized preparation reveals how seriously the Romans took gladiatorial combat as both entertainment and business. Despite popular misconceptions of gladiators as expendable cannon fodder, they represented significant investments that Lanisti sought to protect. "You," Pollux points at you. "Thraex against Gallus. I fought him twice when I was active. Strong. Initial attack, tendency to overcommit. Shield work is excellent, but his lateral movement is weak. We'll exploit that. The training that follows is different from anything you've experienced, focused entirely on countering one specific opponent. Another Thraex who's not currently scheduled to fight plays the role of Gallus, mimicking his known fighting style while you drill counter techniques repeatedly. "No, he won't give you that opening," Pollux shouts. Gallus protects his right, side obsessively. You need to draw him left, then circle right when he compensates. This continues for hours. Specific attacks, specific defenses, specific footwork patterns designed to counter Gallus's known tendencies. By midday, every muscle in your body screams with fatigue, but the specialized training continues while the regular gladiators break for their meal. "Again," Pollux demands after a brief water break. The difference between life and death is not grand strategy, but the perfect execution of basic techniques under extreme stress. We drill until your body responds without thought, and drill you do the same movements repeated hundreds of times until they become embedded in muscle memory. This corresponds with modern understanding of motor learning. Skills practiced to the point of automaticity can be executed even under extreme stress. Your diet changes too. The evening meal includes meat, a rarity in the ludus except for fighters. Preparing for arena appearances, the protein will help build and repair muscle tissue during this intense training period, while the gladiatorial diet's overall high carbohydrate content continues to maintain that protective layer of subcutaneous
Fat.
Eat everything, Darius advises when you return to your cell that night, your body throbbing with new pains. The extra food isn't generosity, it's investment. Every mouthful makes you more likely to survive, which makes Batiatus more likely to profit. Days 2 through 7 follow the same punishing pattern. Specialized drills, tactical discussions, observation of fighting records, all focused on preparing you for Gallus. You learn that he's fought 11 times with 8 victories, that he killed 2 opponents when the crowd gave the thumbs down, that his first attack typically comes from high right to low left. By the end of the first week, your body has adapted somewhat to the intensified training. The muscle pain remains constant but becomes familiar, almost a companion. Your reactions are sharper, your technique more refined. When you spar with the gladiator playing Gallus, you occasionally gain the upper hand, though Pollux is quick to remind you that practice is not reality. "He's improving," you overhear Pollux telling Batiatus during an evening inspection. "Raw still, but there's potential. Might actually give Gallus a proper challenge." "He'd better," the Lanista replies coldly. "I've wagered a substantial sum
On him lasting at least to the 3rd exchange. Don't make me regret it. The 2nd week brings new dimensions to your preparation."
A Roman soldier who once fought against Thracian tribes is brought in to advise on authentic fighting techniques that might surprise Gallus. "The Seeker's Curve isn't just for show," the soldier explains, demonstrating a hooking technique. Thracians used it to pull down an opponent's shield or catch the rim, creating openings. Most arena Thraces never learn the true applications. This historical authenticity was an important aspect of gladiatorial combat, often overlooked in modern depictions. While heavily stylized for entertainment value, the fighting styles did incorporate elements from the actual combat techniques of the cultures they represented. The middle of the 2nd week brings another innovation to your training: psychological preparation. A retired gladiator who now works as a doctor, specializing in mental conditioning, is brought in. "The arena will assault all your senses at once," he explains to the arena-bound fighters. "The noise of the crowd will disorient you. The sun will
Blind you when you first emerge from the tunnel. The smell of blood, sweat, and excrement will turn your stomach if you're not prepared."
He leads you through visualization exercises, having you close your eyes and imagine every aspect of the arena experience in vivid detail. The weight of real armor, the texture of sand underfoot, the deafening roar when your name is announced, the moment of first clashing with your opponent. Fear is inevitable, he tells you. The champion and the novice both feel it. The difference is that the champion acknowledges his fear and continues despite it, while the novice is paralyzed by it. This psychological training aligns with historical accounts of how gladiators prepared for combat. The philosopher Seneca noted that gladiators trained not just their bodies, but their minds for the ordeal ahead. The final week before your arena debut brings a tapering of physical training and an increase in technical refinement. Rather than exhausting drills, you now focus on precision, timing, and energy conservation. Pollux explains that you need to enter the arena at peak condition, not depleted from overtraining. Most novices die not from their opponent's skill, but from their own panic and fatigue, he explains. They exhaust themselves in the first exchange, leaving nothing for what follows. New elements are added to your preparation. You practice with the actual armor you'll wear in the arena. Lighter than training gear, but unfamiliar in its fit and movement. You rehearse the entrance procession, the salute to the editor, the ritual circuit of the arena before combat begins. Every
movement is performance, Pollux insists. From the moment you enter until the moment you exit, victorious or dead, you are entertaining Rome. Never forget that. This theatrical aspect of gladiatorial combat was integral to its function in Roman society.
The games weren't merely violence, but carefully choreographed spectacle with religious, political, and cultural significance. 5 days before the games, you receive an unexpected visitor, the sponsor himself, the portly senator who selected you for combat against Gallus. He observes your training with calculating eyes, occasionally conferring with Batiatus and Pollux. He looks adequate, you overhear him saying. The odds against him have increased to 4-1. I've placed a modest sum on his survival regardless of victory. This casual gambling on your life is jarring but typical. Betting on gladiatorial outcomes was a massive industry in ancient Rome, with fortunes won and lost on arena results. 3 days before the games, your training reduces significantly. Now the focus is on rest, mental preparation, and ritual. The ludus medicus, the facility's physician, examines you thoroughly, treating any minor injuries and providing herbal preparations to reduce inflammation and promote recovery. The body must be at its peak, he explains, as he applies a poultice to your persistently sore shoulder. But more importantly, the mind must be clear and focused. 2 days before combat, you're moved from your regular cell to special quarters, reserved for arena fighters. These rooms are smaller, designed for 1 or 2 occupants rather than 3 or 4, but offer modest comforts absent elsewhere. A proper bed instead of a straw pallet, a small brazier for warmth, even a crude bath for washing. Enjoy the luxury, Darius says as you gather your few possessions. It's either preparation for glory or consolation for death. This improved treatment before combat served multiple purposes. It kept the fighters in peak condition, it emphasized their special status, and it provided a psychological boost before the ordeal ahead. The day before your arena debut dawns with strange clarity. Your training is minimal, just enough movement to keep your body loose without causing fatigue. Instead, the day focuses on final preparations, both practical and spiritual. The armorer fits you with your arena equipment, making final adjustments to ensure perfect fit. Unlike the heavier training gear, this armor is designed for mobility and spectacle as much as protection. It gleams with polish, decorated with bronze accents that will catch the sunlight dramatically. Your helmet features elaborate Thracian style, decorations simultaneously intimidating and theatrical. The crowd eats first with their eyes, the armourer explains as he adjusts your greaves. Look the part of a fearsome Thracian warrior, and you've won half the battle before drawing your sword. The afternoon brings the Cena Libera, the free dinner, a special meal granted to gladiators the night before combat. This tradition paralleled the last meal given to condemned criminals before execution, a reminder of the mortal stakes of arena combat. Unlike regular meals in the ludus, this feast is relatively lavish: roasted meats, fresh bread, fruit, and undiluted wine. You're joined by the other 7 gladiators scheduled to fight tomorrow, creating a strange atmosphere that mingles celebration and solemn acknowledgement of possible death. Eat and drink moderately, advises Marcus, the veteran Mumio, who survived his last bout. Enough to strengthen you, not enough to slow you tomorrow. The Cena Libera is also when you're permitted to put your affairs in order, writing letters to family if you have any, making arrangements for your possessions, even receiving visitors if you have friends or admirers in the city. For you there are no visitors, no family to contact. Your previous life ended when you were captured in battle and sold to the ludus. Your world has contracted to these walls, these men, and tomorrow, the arena. As night falls, a priest arrives, not one of Rome's official religious functionaries, but a man who specializes in the spiritual needs of gladiators. He leads you and the others in prayers to various deities associated with combat and fate: Mars, the war god; Hercules, the paragon of strength; Nemesis, the goddess of fortune and retribution. In the arena, you stand at the threshold between life and death, the priest intones. The gods watch your courage, your skill, your dignity in facing fate. Show them you are worthy of their favor. You participate in the rituals without full conviction. Your homeland's gods are different from Rome's, but the ceremony provides a comforting structure, a way to process the looming reality of tomorrow's combat. Later, alone in your special quarters, you lie awake despite your exhaustion. 21 days of intensive preparation have transformed your body and sharpened your skills, but tomorrow will test whether it's enough. Gallus has 8 victories. You have none. The odds reflect this disparity. Sleep proves elusive as your mind cycles through possibilities. Victory seems unlikely against such an experienced opponent, but survival might be achievable. If you fight, well, demonstrate skill and courage. The crowd might spare you even in defeat. This is your most realistic hope, not triumph, but honorable performance that earns you another chance. Your thoughts turn to Publius, who faced similar odds, yet survived through a combination of preparation, opportunity, and the crowd's favor. But for every Publius there are fighters like Atticus and Numerius who entered the arena never to return. You drift into uneasy sleep eventually, your dreams filled with sand and blood, and the faceless shape of Gallus advancing toward you. In these dreams, you sometimes win, sometimes die, sometimes wake before the outcome is determined. Your subconscious processing the possibilities that tomorrow might bring. You wake before the guards come, in the darkest hour before dawn. Today is the day. In a few hours, you'll walk through the underground passage to the Colosseum, emerge into blinding sunlight and deafening noise, and face Gallus before 50,000 spectators. "It's time," says a voice at the door. Pollux stands there, his scarred face solemn. Prepare yourself. Today you become a gladiator in truth, not just in training. The final preparations begin in near silence. Attendants help you wash and oil your body until your skin gleams. Your hair is styled in the traditional Thracian manner, partly shaved, partly tied in a distinctive knot that marks your gladiator type. Cosmetics are applied sparingly to accentuate your features, making them visible from the distant seats. Remember, you're training, Pollux says quietly, as the armorer begins fitting your combat gear. First exchange, defensive. Assess his speed, his power, his tendencies. Second exchange, test his left side, watch for the counter. Third exchange, implement our strategy. The armor feels different today, lighter than in practice, but somehow more significant, its weight representing the mortal stakes of what's to come. The manica, arm guard, on your right arm, the ocrea, greaves, protecting your legs, the distinctive Thracian helmet with its wide brim and facial coverage. Each piece transforms you further from man to gladiatorial archetype. Finally, your weapons are presented, not the blunted training implements, but true arena equipment. A small rectangular shield, parmula, decorated with Thracian motifs, and a curved Sika sword, its edge honed to perfect sharpness. You test their weight and balance, finding them perfectly suited to your measurements. This personalization of equipment was standard practice, ensuring each gladiator could perform at his best. The others are ready, an attendant announces. The procession forms in the tunnel. You join the other 7 gladiators from your ludus in the underground passage that connects directly to the Colosseum. Already armored and armed, you form a line according to your position in today's program. As a novice facing your first bout, you'll fight early in the day's schedule, the prime afternoon slots reserved for more established fighters. Gallus is already there with fighters from his ludus, standing across the assembly area. He's larger than you expected, powerfully built, his Mamillo armor gleaming, his fish-crested helmet tucked under one arm. When he notices your attention, he gives a slight nod, professional acknowledgement between men who may soon kill each other. Above you, barely audible through layers of stone, comes the sound of the morning's activities in the arena. The games typically began at dawn with venaciones, animal hunts, and the execution of condemned criminals, building up to the gladiatorial combats that were the main attraction. "Listen to me," Pollux says, gathering your ludus fighters for final instructions. "Remember that you represent Batiatus and this ludus with every movement. Fight with skill and courage. Entertain the crowd. If victory comes, be magnanimous. If defeat comes, be dignified. And remember, the crowd often spares those who impress them, regardless of outcome." A ludus official enters the assembly area. "Procession in 10 minutes, he announces. "Final preparations now." The reality of what's about to happen settles over you with crushing weight. In minutes, you'll march into the largest arena in the Roman world, before tens of thousands of spectators, to fight a man who intends to defeat you and possibly kill you. Your mouth is dry, your heart pounds, your palms sweat inside your leather grips. This is fear, normal, natural, experienced by every man who ever walked this path. The difference between the novice and the champion, as your trainers repeatedly emphasized, is not the absence of fear, but the ability to function despite it. You close your eyes briefly, visualizing the upcoming battle as you've been taught. You see yourself moving with purpose and skill, implementing the strategies drilled into you over 3 weeks of specialized training. You see yourself surviving, perhaps even prevailing against the odds. Gladiators, helmets on, procession forms now. You place your helmet over your head, the familiar confinement now a strange comfort. Through the eye holes the world narrows, to a limited field of vision, just as it will be in combat. You take your position in line, shield on your left arm, sword in your right hand. The massive gates at the end of the tunnel begin to swing outward, flooding the passage with blinding
sunlight.
The crowd noise, previously muffled, now crashes in like a physical wave, 50,000 voices creating a wall of sound unlike anything you've ever experienced. Musicians begin playing, their trumpets and drums establishing the cadence for the gladiatorial procession. Standard bearers move into position at the front of the line. The procession will circle the arena, presenting the day's fighters to the crowd before combat begins. "Remember," Pollock says, his final words before you march, "from this moment you are no longer just a man, you are a gladiator, a symbol, a performer, a potential legend. Walk accordingly." You take a deep breath and step forward, moving from the shadows of preparation into the blinding light of the arena. After 21 days of specialized training, the moment of truth has arrived. Gallus awaits, the crowd awaits. Glory or death awaits. You are a Roman gladiator, and today is your day of reckoning. Part 6. Sand and blood, the arena beckons. The light blinds you momentarily as you emerge from the tunnel into the vast expanse of the Colosseum. Your eyes struggle to adjust from darkness to the brilliant Mediterranean sunshine. Your ears ring with the thunderous roar of 50,000 Romans screaming, stamping, and clapping as the gladiators appear. The sensory assault is overwhelming, just as your trainers warned. The sheer scale of the Flavian Amphitheatre, the Colosseum's proper name, defies comprehension. Completed under Emperor Titus in 80 CE, it rises 157 feet into the sky, its massive stone tiers filled with spectators from every stratum of Roman society. You fall into the practiced rhythm of the pompa, the opening parade of gladiators. Left foot, right foot, measured steps in perfect unison with the others. Your eyes begin to adjust, allowing you to take in the full spectacle around you. The sand of the arena floor, fresh and clean for now, contrasts sharply with the white marble of the first tier where wealthy Romans sit on cushioned seats. Above them rise the middle and upper tiers, packed with the common citizens of Rome, a living mosaic of color and movement. The smell hits you next, a complex mix of hot sand, sweat, perfumes worn by the wealthy spectators, food being consumed. Throughout the audience and underlying it all, the metallic tang of blood from the morning's animal hunts and executions. As your procession circles the arena, sections of the crowd cheer for recognizable veterans. Marcus, the experienced Mamilio from your ludus, raises his sword slightly in acknowledgement when a particularly loud chant of his name erupts from the stands. Celebrity gladiators could achieve remarkable fame in Roman society, their names and images appearing on everything from graffiti to household items. You scan the imperial box, the pulvina, where the most important spectators sit. The emperor isn't present today, but you see the sponsor of the games, your patron senator, reclining comfortably among other aristocrats. His investment in today's spectacle will enhance his political standing, demonstrating his wealth and generosity to the people of Rome. The procession halts before the editor's box. Following the lead of the veterans, you raise your sword in the traditional salute. Av, editor, morituri te salutant. Hail, editor, those who are about to die salute you. The formality of this ritual underscores the quasi-religious aspect of gladiatorial combat, its origins as funerary games to honor the dead. The editor, the official overseeing today's games, acknowledges the salute with a raised hand. The procession continues its circuit before breaking formation. Gladiators, scheduled for immediate combat, remain in the arena. The rest, including you, return to the holding area beneath the stands to await your turn. The hypodium, the vast network of rooms and passages beneath the arena floor, buzzes with activity. Animal handlers prepare beasts for the venationes. Stagehands manage the elaborate scenery that will be raised through trapdoors for certain spectacles, and gladiators wait for their moment in the sun. You'll be called after the next pair, an official informs you. Prepare yourself. While waiting, you can hear the muffled sounds of the current bout taking place above, the clash of weapons, the crowd's reaction swelling and ebbing with the
flow of combat. When a particularly loud cheer erupts, a veteran nearby grimaces. "Someone just died," he says matter-of-factly. "That's the death cheer. You'll recognize it if you hear it often enough." You occupy yourself with final preparations, stretching.
Tight muscles, checking your shield straps one last time, ensuring your helmet sits correctly. Across the preparation area, you can see Gallus doing the same. His face is now concealed behind his Mamillo helmet, the distinctive fish crest rising above the metal shell that will protect his head. "Remember," Pollux says, appearing beside, "you for final instructions. He'll come aggressively at first. Weather the initial assault, make him work. His stamina is his weakness." "Thraex and Mumio, you're next," announces the Summa Rudis, the referee who will oversee your bout. He's a retired gladiator himself, experienced enough to enforce the rules while staying clear of the fighting. Your heart pounds as you follow him toward the arena entrance. Gallus walks parallel from another access point. In moments, you'll face each other with lethal intent before tens of thousands of screaming spectators. The gates swing open, and once again you're assaulted by light and noise. You step onto the sand with practiced ceremonial steps, moving to your designated starting position. Across the arena, Gallus does the same. The crowd's reaction is noticeably more subdued than for the veteran fighters. As a novice, you haven't earned their enthusiasm yet. The Summa Rudis stands between you, raising his staff. "Clean fight," he instructs tersely. "Respond to my signals."
"Honor to you both." Then he steps back, leaving nothing between you and Gallus but 30 feet of sand. A moment of eerie near silence falls over the arena as 50,000 people collectively hold their breath in anticipation.
Then the trumpet sounds, signaling the start of combat, and the crowd erupts. You adopt the defensive stance drilled into you during training, shield forward, sword ready, weight balanced to move in any direction. Gallus does the same, his larger, rectangular scutum shield presenting a formidable barrier. For a heartbeat, neither of you moves, each assessing the other across the sand. Then, exactly as predicted, Gallus attacks with explosive speed. He crosses the distance between you with surprising quickness for a man in heavy armor, his gladius stabbing toward your face in a classic Mamillo opening. You raise your shield, deflecting the blow with a practiced motion, then retreat 2 steps, maintaining distance rather than countering immediately. This defensive response seems to surprise Gallus, who had perhaps expected a novice to respond with panicked aggression. He presses forward again, shield bashing toward you while his sword probes for openings around your guard. The first exchange unfolds exactly as you've trained. Defensive posture, careful assessment, minimal energy expenditure. Gallus strikes. Repeatedly, each attack skillfully turned aside by your shield or avoided with careful footwork. You make no offensive moves yet, focusing entirely on survival and observation. The crowd grows restless at what they perceive as hesitation rather than strategy. Shouts of "fight" and "attack" rain down from the stands. The Romans didn't pay to see defensive maneuvering, they wanted blood and spectacle. "Now," whispers a voice in your mind that sounds remarkably like Pollux. "Test his left side." As Gallus prepares another assault, you suddenly change tactics, darting forward with your curved seeker aimed at his left side. As predicted, his shield comes across, Too slowly, a weakness in his technique identified during your preparation. The tip of your blade catches his armor, scoring a shallow cut across his ribs. First blood goes to you, and the crowd responds with startled cheers. The odds makers had you pegged as fodder for Gallus's continued glory, but you've proven yourself capable of threatening the veteran. Gallus retreats, reassessing you with new respect. The cut isn't serious, barely breaking the skin beneath his armor, but it's a psychological victory. You've demonstrated that this fight won't be the easy win he anticipated. The second exchange begins more cautiously on both sides. Gallus has abandoned his aggressive opening strategy, now moving more methodically, protecting his left side more carefully. You maintain the distance, watching for the patterns identified during your training. The slight shift of weight that precedes his thrust, the minimal telegraph in his shoulder before a shield bash for several minutes. You exchange probing attacks and defenses. Neither lands a significant blow, but the technical display seems to engage the crowd, who begin to appreciate the tactical chess match unfolding before them. This was an aspect of gladiatorial combat often overlooked in popular imagination. The strategic depth and technical skill involved could be as compelling as blood and brutality. Gallus grows frustrated with his inability to overwhelm you quickly. His attacks become more committed, more powerful, but also more predictable. You weather the assault, your shield arm burning with fatigue, but your technique holding firm under pressure. He's tiring, comes that inner voice again. Third exchange. Implement our strategy. You shift tactics again, implementing the specialized strategy developed during your training. You begin moving laterally, forcing Gallus to constantly adjust his position. The Mamillo fighting style, with its heavy shield and straight thrust sword, excels in direct confrontation but struggles against mobile opponents who refuse linear engagement. The crowd senses the change in momentum, their cheers intensifying as they recognize the 3x strategy unfolding before them. Many are likely winning or losing significant wagers based on your performance. Gambling was integral to the gladiatorial experience, with fortunes riding on the outcomes. The moment comes suddenly. Gallus overextends on a thrust, his balance compromised for just a fraction of a second. You exploit the opening exactly as trained, your seeker hooking around his shield's edge, while you simultaneously sidestep his recovery. Your sword finds the gap between his shoulder armor and helmet, cutting a clean line across his upper arm. It's not a disabling wound, but it's significant. Bright blood flows freely, visible to the entire arena. The injury forces Gallus to adjust his fighting style. His shield work becomes slightly less effective as his wounded arm tires more quickly. You press this advantage carefully, not overcommitting but maintaining the lateral movement that has served you well. The fight continues, stretching beyond the typical duration of a gladiatorial bout. Both of you are tiring now, movements slightly slower, breathing more labored inside your confining helmets. Sweat stings your eyes, and your shield arm trembles with fatigue. But Gallus is suffering more, his heavier armor and wounded arm accelerating his exhaustion. Sensing his diminishing advantage, Gallus launches a renewed offensive, a veteran's gambit to end the fight before his stamina fails completely. His gladius strikes repeatedly against your shield, the impacts reverberating up your arm and into your shoulder. One blow slips through your guard, cutting a shallow line across your thigh. Pain flares hot and immediate, but you've been trained to fight through injury. The wound isn't deep enough to hamper movement significantly, and the adrenaline of combat quickly pushes the pain to the background of your awareness. The fight has reached its critical phase. Both of you are wounded, exhausted, pushing the limits of endurance. The crowd is fully engaged now, their initial dismissal of the novice Thrax replaced with genuine appreciation for the spectacle unfolding before them. Gallus makes his final mistake, a desperate lunge that commits his weight too
far forward.
You pivot away from the thrust while simultaneously sweeping your sicker in a hooking motion that catches his forward leg. The veteran crashes to the ground, losing his sword in the fall. In an instant, you're standing over him, seeker poised for the killing stroke, exactly as trained in the ludus. The crowd roars its approval at this dramatic conclusion. The Summa Rudi steps forward, his staff raised to halt the action. Gallus, disarmed and vulnerable, raises his finger in the missio, the gesture requesting mercy. The decision now passes to the editor, who typically followed the will of the crowd in such matters. You remain poised above your fallen opponent, breathing heavily but maintaining proper form. This moment, the defeated gladiator at the mercy of his conqueror, the crowd, and the editor, was perhaps the most iconic image of gladiatorial combat, fraught with theatrical tension and moral weight. The crowd's reaction is mixed at first, some calling for death, pressing thumbs in the polis verso gesture, others for mercy, hiding their thumbs. But gradually a consensus emerges. The spectators have been entertained by both gladiators, impressed by your skill as a novice and Gallus's courage as a veteran. The editor stands extending his hand with thumb concealed, the signal for mercy. The crowd cheers its approval. Both gladiators have fought well and earned the right to fight another day. You step back, lowering your weapon as the Summa Rudis officially declares the contest concluded. Attendants rush forward to assist Gallus to his feet. Despite his defeat, he's maintained his dignity and fought courageously, virtues the Romans valued in their gladiators. In a gesture of respect, you extend your hand to help Gallus rise. He accepts, allowing you to assist him to his feet. This moment of mutual acknowledgement between opponents who have tested each other to the limits transcends the violence that preceded it. "Well fought, Thracian," Gallus says quietly as he regains his footing. "You've earned your place in the arena." The crowd appreciates this display of gladiatorial virtue, the professional respect between combatants who understand what they've each endured. You and Gallus raise your arms together in acknowledgement of the spectators, turning slowly to salute all sections of the Colosseum. Officials approach, bearing the symbols of victory, a palm branch representing triumph, and a small purse containing your prize money. As the winner, you receive both the glory and the financial reward, though Gallus will also be compensated for his participation. Successful gladiators could earn substantial sums, with the most popular fighters receiving lavish gifts from wealthy patrons. The palm branch feels impossibly light in your hand after the weight of the shield and sword. The victory seems unreal, a novice defeating an experienced gladiator in his first arena appearance. Already you can sense the shift in how you're perceived, both by the crowd and by the officials surrounding you. You and Gallus exit the arena, together, returning to the hypogeum below. The transition from blinding sunlight and deafening noise to the relative darkness and quiet of the underground chambers is jarring. Medical attendants immediately surround Gallus, leading him to the infirmary to treat his wound. Other attendants approach you for the same purpose. Victory doesn't exempt you from injury. "Hold still," orders the medicus as he examines the cut on your thigh. "Not deep enough for stitching. We'll clean and bind it." As he works, Pollux appears, his scarred face displaying rare satisfaction. "You implemented the strategy perfectly," he says. "The sponsor is pleased. He won a considerable sum wagering on your survival." The reality of what you've accomplished begins to sink in. You've not only survived your first arena combat, but emerged victorious against a seasoned gladiator. In the brutal meritocracy of the arena, this single victory has transformed your status and prospects. The Lannister wants to see you once you're treated, Pollux informs you. Your value to the Ludus has just increased significantly. The other, fighters from your Ludus, gather around offering congratulations. Even veterans like Marcus acknowledge your achievement with newfound respect. In the strict hierarchy of gladiators, you've just climbed several rungs in a single afternoon. Above you, the games continue, other men facing the same trial by combat you've just endured. But for you, this day's fighting is done. You've passed your initiation into the true brotherhood of the arena. You remove your helmet, breathing deeply for the first time in what feels like hours. Your body throbs with pain and fatigue, but underlying these sensations is something new. Pride. Not merely in victory, but in having faced the ultimate test of courage and skill before the assembled masses of Rome. "Come," says Pollux, helping you to your feet as the medicus finishes bandaging your wound. The day is young, and there's much to discuss about your future. As you walk through the underground chambers, passing other fighters preparing for their moments in the arena, you notice how differently they regard you now. The nervous novice who entered the Colosseum hours earlier has been replaced by a proven gladiator, one who has tasted victory on the sacred sand of Rome's greatest amphitheater. Your mind still struggles to process the rapid transformation of your circumstances. This morning, you were expendable, an untested investment whose odds of survival were considered minimal. Now you're a potential asset, a fighter who has demonstrated both skill and the crucial ability to entertain the crowd. You're led not back to the gladiators' waiting area, but toward the private boxes reserved for Ludus owners and wealthy patrons. Batiatus awaits along with the senator who sponsored today's games. "My Thracian warrior," Batiatus exclaims with uncharacteristic warmth as you enter. "You've made me a very happy man today, and considerably richer." The senator studies you with new interest, his earlier dismissive attitude replaced with calculating assessment. "Impressive performance," he comments. "The crowd responded well to you. There's potential there worth developing." What follows is a conversation about your future that would have been unimaginable yesterday. Potential matchups against more prestigious opponents, a higher quality of accommodations in the Ludus, even the possibility of specialized training to refine your distinctive fighting style. The Thracian hook technique with the Sika, the senator muses. "I've not seen it employed so effectively in years. Very authentic, the crowd appreciates such historical touches." This was the strange reality of gladiatorial combat, simultaneously brutal bloodsport and sophisticated performance art, with technical authenticity valued alongside martial effectiveness. As Batiatus and the senator discuss your future value, like merchants assessing a prized commodity, you stand silently, still processing the day's events. Victory in the arena has not granted you freedom. You remain a slave, property of the Ludus. But it has granted you status, opportunity, and most importantly, continued life. "Rest and recover," Batiatus finally instructs you. "Special quarters and privileges are yours now. In 2 weeks, you'll fight again, a more prominent bout with a more dangerous opponent. Continue to succeed, and your rewards will increase accordingly." As you're escorted back through the underground chambers of the Colosseum, the games continue overhead, other men facing their moments of truth in the arena. Some will triumph as you did, others will fall. Some will die. The eternal cycle of the games continues unabated. You reach the tunnel that will lead you back to the Ludus, the same passage you entered with such trepidation hours earlier. Now you walk it as a victorious gladiator, your status forever altered by what transpired on the sand above. Darius waits at the tunnel entrance, having observed your bout from the Gladiator's section of the stands. His weathered face breaks into a rare smile. "Welcome to the Brotherhood," he says simply. "You're a gladiator now, in truth not just in training. As you begin the journey back to the Ludus, the sounds of Rome surround you. Citizens discussing the day's games, street vendors selling commemorative tokens, children playing at being gladiators with wooden swords. The games were the beating heart of Roman popular culture, a unifying spectacle that transcended class divisions. Your thoughts turn to the future, 2 weeks until your next arena appearance, against a more dangerous opponent. The cycle begins again, training, preparation, strategy, and eventually the return to the sand. But now you carry something precious, experience. You've faced the ultimate test of the arena and emerged not just alive, but victorious. You are no longer merely a man being trained to die for entertainment. You are a gladiator, a brother of the sand and blood, a potential hero in the grand spectacle of Rome. For today at least, you have beaten the odds. You have survived. You have triumphed. And in the brutal meritocracy of the arena, that is all that matters. Part 7, The Victorious Return, Fame and Favor. The victor returns. The atmosphere in the Ludus has transformed completely during your absence. Word of your unexpected triumph has traveled faster than your feet, carried by messengers dispatched to update the odds at gambling establishments throughout the city. Where you left this morning as an unknown novice expected to die, you return as something altogether different, a proven arena fighter who defied the odds. Men who barely acknowledged your existence yesterday now crowd around, eager to congratulate the Ludus's newest celebrity.
Even the guards treat you differently, their previous contempt replaced with a grudging respect. In the brutal meritocracy of gladiatorial life, nothing commands respect like survival and victory. "Make way," calls Pollux, cutting through the
crowd. The champion needs rest and treatment. Back to your duties, all of you. You're led not to your old cell, but to a different section of the Ludus reserved for proven fighters. These private quarters are small but offer luxuries unimaginable in your previous accommodations. A proper bed with a stuffed mattress instead of straw, a window with actual glass, even a small brazier for heat on cold nights. Most importantly, you'll no longer share space with multiple men. This room is yours alone. "Your new home," Pollux says, gesturing to the chamber. "One of the privileges of victory." Alone for the first time since before dawn, you sink onto the bed, your body finally registering the full extent of its exhaustion and injuries. The cut on your thigh throbs beneath its bandage, and bruises are already forming beneath your armor where Gallus's shield struck you. But these physical pains are distant compared to the mental fatigue of sustained mortal combat. "Enter," you call, expecting perhaps a medicus to check your wounds. Instead, a young slave appears bearing a tray with food and wine, not the standard barley gruel of common gladiators, but fresh bread, roasted meat, olives, and undiluted wine. In a silver cup, another victory privilege. "Compliments of Lanista Batiatus," the slave says, setting down the tray. "You are to rest today and tomorrow. Training resumes the 3rd day. This consideration for your recovery is not mere kindness, but investment protection. You've increased in value, and Batiatus intends to capitalize on your potential for future games as you eat the first truly satisfying meal you've had since entering the Ludus. You reflect on how dramatically your circumstances have changed in a single day. The hierarchical structure of gladiatorial life means that success in the arena translates directly to improved living conditions, special privileges, and heightened status. Sleep comes easily that night, your exhausted body surrendering to the comfort of an actual mattress. Your dreams are a chaotic blend of arena sand, Gallus's face behind his helmet, and the roaring crowd, some triumphant, others nightmarish. You wake to another unfamiliar luxury, being allowed to sleep until your body naturally awakens rather than being roused before dawn. The sun is already well above the horizon when a knock at your door announces another meal delivery. The medicus will attend you after you've eaten, the slave informs you, placing down another impressive tray of food. The ludus physician arrives as promised, bringing fresh bandages and medicinal salves. He examines your thigh wound carefully, nodding with satisfaction at the clean healing already underway. No infection, he pronounces. Keep it clean and exercise it gently today. Tomorrow you may resume light training. As he works, he explains the recovery regimen, followed by successful gladiators, specific exercises to maintain strength without aggravating injuries, dietary recommendations to promote healing, even mental techniques to process the psychological aftermath of arena combat. After the medicus departs, Darius appears at your door, his weathered face bearing an approving smile. "The man of the hour," he says, entering without ceremony. "How does victory feel?" "Surreal," you admit. "Yesterday morning I was preparing to die. Now you're the ludus celebrity," he finishes for you. "Enjoy it. You've earned these comforts through blood and skill. But that's not why I'm here," he continues, his voice lowering. "I bring news about your next opponent. Your attention sharpens. The celebration of yesterday's victory has momentarily overshadowed the reality that in 2 weeks you'll face an even more dangerous challenge. His name is Titus Acutus," Darius says. "A hoplomachus from the ludus in Capua. 5 victories, no defeats. They call him the Spear for his skill with the hasta. A hoplomachus, a heavily armed fighter, modelled after Greek hoplite warriors. Unlike the Mamilo you faced in Gallus, the hoplomachus fights with a small round shield, palmula, a short spear, hasta, and a dagger, pugio. Their fighting style emphasizes agility and precision strikes rather than power. The matchup is deliberately challenging, Darius explains. Thraex against Hoplomachus isn't a traditional pairing. The sponsor is creating novelty, which means higher interest, larger crowds, bigger wagers. But there's more, he continues. Your bout has been moved up in the program. You'll fight in the early afternoon slot, prime viewing time when the crowd is largest and most engaged. The editor believes your previous performance warrants the promotion. This is significant news. The scheduling of gladiatorial combats was highly strategic, with the most anticipated matches reserved for peak viewing hours when the maximum audience would be present. Rest today, he advises before departing. Starting tomorrow, you'll begin specialized training against the Hoplomachus fighting style. Pollux already has a strategy in mind. The remainder of your rest day passes in a strange blend of physical, recovery, and mental preparation. Your thoughts repeatedly return to the upcoming bout against Titus Acutus, an undefeated veteran with a fighting style you've rarely practiced against. The following day brings you back to training, though with a modified regimen that respects your recovering body. You're now part of the elite training group, working exclusively with other proven arena fighters under Pollux's direct supervision. The Hoplomachus presents different challenges than the Mamilo, Pollux explains as specialized training begins. The spear gives him reach advantage. The round shield is smaller but more maneuverable. He'll be faster, more agile, likely to target exposed areas with precision rather than power. For the next several days, you train against a stand-in Hoplomachus, learning to counter the distinctive fighting style. The hasta spear requires different defensive techniques. than the gladius sword, parrying rather than blocking, creating angles that negate the weapon's reach advantage. Distance management is critical, Pollux emphasizes repeatedly. Too far, and his spear controls the engagement. Too close, and you neutralize his primary weapon but expose yourself to his dagger. You must master the middle space, close enough to threaten with your seeker, far enough to react to his thrusts. As your body recovers, the training intensity increases. By the 5th day after your victory, you're engaging in full contact sparring against an experienced gladiator, mimicking Titus's known fighting patterns. The physical demands are extreme, but you notice your body responding differently now, more confident, more precise, somehow fundamentally changed by the crucible of actual arena combat. During training breaks, you now sit with the veteran fighters, included in their conversations and strategic discussions. The social hierarchy of the ludus is strict but fluid, based primarily on arena accomplishment rather than seniority or origin. The crowd will have expectations now, Marcus advises during one such conversation. Your first victory was a surprise that delighted them. Your second must confirm their judgment. Reputation in the arena is built fight by fight, but can be destroyed in a single poor showing. The specialized preparation continues day after day, each session focused on specific aspects of the upcoming bout. You study recordings of Titus's previous fights, not video, of course, but detailed accounts maintained by the Ludus chronicler who documents every arena appearance by its gladiators. You learn that Titus favors his right side despite being trained to fight ambidextrously, that he typically establishes range with probing spear thrusts before committing to decisive attacks, that he's known for sudden changes of rhythm designed to disrupt an opponent's timing. A week after your victory, another change in status occurs. You're invited to dine in the Ludus's small triclinium, a proper dining room reserved for the lanista, his guests, and occasionally his most valuable fighters. Tonight, Batiatus has summoned you to meet potential sponsors interested in your next appearance. The triclinium represents a different world from the gladiators' mess hall, reclining couches instead of benches, fine tableware instead of wooden bowls, servants attending to every need. Batiatus presides over the gathering with several wealthy-looking Romans in attendance. "Ah, my Thracian champion arrives," Batiatus announces as you enter. "Gentlemen, I present the newest star of our humble Ludus, the man who defeated the veteran Gallus in his first arena appearance." The guests examine you with the calculating eyes of investors assessing a potential acquisition. These are the men who finance the games, whose patronage determines which gladiators receive the most prominent matches and thus the greatest opportunities for fame and reward. "He moves well," comments one patrician. "Natural athleticism, good proportions for a Thraex." "The crowd responded to his authentic fighting style," adds another. "Too many arena Thraces fight like Myrmiones with curved swords. This one uses true Thracian techniques. There's marketing potential there." As the meal progresses, you maintain a respectful silence unless directly addressed. A gladiator, even a successful one, remains property rather than equal company. But you observe carefully, recognizing that these connections could significantly impact your future prospects. "I've wagered substantially on his bout against Titus," announces one particularly affluent-looking man. "The odds are still against our Thraex, but less dramatically than before. The gambling houses have taken notice of his potential." The conversation turns to the promotional aspects of your upcoming fight, how it will be advertised throughout Rome, what narrative will be constructed around the matchup, how to maximize public interest and attendance. The business of gladiatorial combat extended far beyond the arena itself, encompassing a sophisticated promotional apparatus designed to create celebrities and compelling storylines. We should emphasize the cultural conflict, suggests one sponsor. Greek discipline against Thracian ferocity, civilization versus barbaric courage. The public responds to these historical echoes. As the meal concludes, Batiatus dismisses you with instructions to continue your dedicated preparation. The meeting has made clear your new status, no longer expendable property, but a valuable asset worth investing in, promoting, and protecting. Zitsar's second week of preparation introduces another novel experience, public recognition. When permitted to visit the baths under guard supervision, another privilege earned through arena success, you find yourself approached by ordinary Romans who witnessed your victory. "You're the Thraex who defeated Gallus," exclaims a young man, approaching with obvious excitement. "I won 20 denarii wagering on you. No one thought you'd survive 3 exchanges, but I saw something in your stance during the procession." Others join the conversation, some claiming to have predicted your victory, others describing their favorite moments from the bout with animated gestures. This public adulation, while modest compared to what famous veteran gladiators experienced, offers a taste of the celebrity status that successful arena fighters could achieve in Roman society. As your second arena appearance approaches, another dimension of gladiatorial life emerges, the psychological preparation. Combat veterans like Darius and Marcus share techniques for managing fear, maintaining focus amid the sensory chaos of the arena, and performing under the immense pressure of public expectation. The second fight is different, Marcus explains during an evening conversation in the elite gladiators' courtyard. The first time, no one expects anything from you. You're free to surprise them. Now, you carry the weight of your previous victory. The crowd remembers. They expect consistency. This pressure destroys many promising fighters. How do you handle it? You ask, genuinely curious how these men face death repeatedly while maintaining their composure. "Each has his own way," Darius replies. "Some pray to their gods, others focus entirely on technique, reducing the fight to a series of practiced movements. I visualize the entire bout beforehand, victory, defeat, injury, every possibility, so nothing surprises me when it happens." This psychological dimension of gladiatorial combat is rarely emphasized in popular depictions, but was crucial to survival in the arena. Mental preparation could mean the difference between life and death when fighting under extreme stress. The final days before your second arena appearance bring training to its peak intensity, followed by a calculated tapering to ensure you enter the arena at maximum physical readiness. The specialized preparation against the Hoplomachus fighting style has become second nature. You can anticipate and counter the distinctive spear techniques without conscious thought, your body reacting automatically to threats. 2 days before the games, you undergo a final armor fitting. Your success has earned you improved equipment, still identifying you as a Thraex, but of higher quality, with more elaborate decorations befitting your new status. The curved Seeker sword has been custom forged to match your exact preferences for weight and balance. The helmet features finer metalwork and more impressive plumage. Even your shield bears decorative elements that will catch the light dramatically in the arena. "Appearance matters," the armorer explains as he makes final adjustments. A gladiator who looks impressive is halfway to victory before the first blow is struck. The day before combat brings a final strategy session with Pollux, reviewing every detail of the plan developed over 2 weeks of specialized training. "Remember," Titus begins cautiously, "establishing distance with his spear," Pollux reminds you. "Don't rush to close that distance. It's what he expects and has counters prepared. Instead, use lateral movement to force him to constantly readjust his position. The Hoplomachus fighting style is most effective when stationary or moving directly, forward and backward. Circular movement disrupts his preferred patterns. The strategy is sophisticated, reflecting the high level of tactical thinking that went into gladiatorial combat. Far from mindless brutality, arena fighting involved complexity, game theory, psychological warfare, and technical precision. Most importantly, Pollux concludes, remember that you're not just fighting Titus, you're performing for Rome. The crowd's favor can save you even in defeat if you impress them sufficiently. Fight with skill, yes, but also with style and courage. Night falls on the eve of combat. You're moved once again to the special quarters reserved for fighters appearing in the next day's games. The Cena Libera, the traditional free dinner before potential death, is served with appropriate ceremony. Unlike before your first bout, when you had no visitors, tonight several people request an audience, including, surprisingly, Gallus himself, now recovered from the wounds you inflicted. "I thought I should see the man who bested me," Gallus says without preamble, "to offer what insight I can about Titus. We trained together briefly in Capua before I was transferred here. This unexpected professional courtesy reflects the complex brotherhood that existed among gladiators. Despite being forced to fight one another, they often formed bonds of mutual respect and shared experience. Gallus provides valuable information about Titus's tendencies, preferences, and psychological approach to combat, insights that could prove crucial in tomorrow's bout. As he prepares to leave, he offers a final observation that surprises you. "The crowd will be divided tomorrow," he says. "Many will support you as the Ludus's new discovery. Others favor Titus for his perfect record. Use that division. Play to your supporters. Let their energy fuel you when fatigue sets in." Other visitors follow, Batiatus making a final inspection of his investment, the Ludus physician providing herbal preparations to steady nerves and ensure restful sleep, even a priestess who performs brief rites to various deities associated with combat and fortune. Finally, you're alone with your thoughts on what might be your last night alive. Despite your previous success, the reality remains unchanged. Tomorrow, you face potential death for the entertainment of Rome. Titus Acutus has never been defeated, has killed 2 of his 5 opponents, and possesses a fighting style specifically developed to counter fighters like you. You arrange the few personal items you've accumulated since your arena victory, a small victory token from your bout with Gallus, a protective amulet given by a superstitious guard, a scrap of parchment,
on which you've written the names of your homeland gods.
These modest possessions represent the sum total of what you can call your own in this strange life between slavery and celebrity. Following Darius's advice, you close your eyes and visualize tomorrow's combat in exacting detail, every potential scenario, every attack and counter, every possible outcome from glorious victory to honorable death. This mental rehearsal calms your racing thoughts, transforming abstract fear into concrete challenges that can be anticipated and addressed. Sleep eventually claims you, though it's lighter and more restless than you'd prefer. Dreams blend memory
and anticipation. The roar of the crowd, the feeling of sand shifting beneath your feet, the weight of weapons in your hands, the face of tomorrow's opponent imagined from descriptions since you've never seen him in person. You wake before the
knock comes, already alert and focused. The day has arrived. In a few hours, you'll face Titus Acutus before the assembled masses of Rome, your second trial by combat with even higher stakes than the first. "It's time," calls a voice from beyond the door. "Preparation begins now." You rise to meet your fate, stepping into the familiar preparation routine with a different perspective than before your first bout. The fear remains. Only a fool feels no fear before mortal combat. But it's now tempered with experience, confidence, and thorough preparation. Today you fight not as an unknown novice, but as a recognized gladiator with reputation and expectations. The pressure is greater, but so is your readiness to face it. The final journey to the arena begins, a path that will end in either greater glory or permanent darkness. Part 8. The cycle of sand, glory, blood, and tomorrow. The preparation. Your second arena appearance follows the same ritual as the first, yet everything feels different. Where before there was terror of the unknown, now there's the focused tension of experience. You understand exactly what awaits beyond the tunnel, the blinding light, the deafening roar, the moment when 50,000 voices become a single entity, passing judgment on your worth. "Stand still," commands the armorer as he secures your new Thraex equipment. The armor gleams with recent polishing, the metal catching the torchlight in a way your previous planar gear never did. Success has earned you these upgrades. Lightweight, bronze greaves engraved with Thracian patterns, a manica arm guard reinforced with small metal plates, and most impressively, a helmet whose crest now features dyed horsehair in vivid crimson. The red will make you recognizable from the highest. "Seats," explains the armorer. "Important for building your reputation. The crowd needs to identify you instantly." This attention to theatrical presentation was integral to gladiatorial combat. Arena fighters weren't just warriors but performers whose distinctive appearance helped create memorable personas for the audience. Pollux appears, his scarred face unusually solemn. Titus has arrived with his entourage from Capua, he informs you. Impressive specimen, undefeated for good reason. Your curved seeker sword is handed to you for final inspection. The blade honed to perfect sharpness, the hilt wrapped in leather for secure grip, even when slick with sweat or blood. The distinctive weapon identifies you instantly as a Thraex, its curved shape designed to hook around an opponent's shield or strike from unexpected angles. "Remember," Pollux says quietly, "Titus expects to win. 5 victories, no defeats. That certainty is both strength and weakness. Make him doubt himself early and his perfect record becomes a burden rather than an advantage." "Procession forms in the tunnel," calls an official. "Fighters to positions." You join the other gladiators from various ludi in the underground passage. Today's games are more prestigious than your previous appearance, featuring fighters from across Italia gathered for a special exhibition sponsored by several wealthy patricians seeking political advantage. In the shadowy tunnel, your eyes search for Titus Acutus among the armored figures. You identify him almost immediately. A Hoplomachus standing with the Capua contingent, his Greek-inspired equipment distinctive among the various gladiator types. He's taller than you expected, his posture radiating confidence without arrogance. When his gaze meets yours across the assembly area, there's professional acknowledgement rather than hostility. "Quite a crowd today," comments Marcus, who fights later in the program. "Rumor says even the emperor's representative attends. Opportunity for glory or for memorable death." The games served important political functions in Roman society, with high officials often attending to assess public sentiment or demonstrate their commitment to popular entertainment. Their presence raised the stakes for performers, offering both greater reward for success and greater humiliation in failure. The sounds filtering down from the arena indicate the transitional period between the morning's venationes, animal hunts, and the afternoon's gladiatorial combats. The crowd grows restless, anticipating the main attractions. You'll fight third in today's program, a significant promotion from your previous position, reflecting your enhanced status. "Final instructions," announces the Master of Ceremonies. "The editor demands a worthy spectacle. Fight with courage and skill, entertain Rome. Those who impress may receive mercy even in defeat. Those who disappoint may find death even in victory. This stark reminder of gladiatorial reality, that survival depended not just on winning but on pleasing the crowd, underscores the theatrical nature of arena combat. The gladiators are arranged for the opening procession, grouped by the ludus they represent. As a rising fighter with one victory, you're positioned prominently enough to be noticed, but not among the headline attractions who will close the pompa. The massive gates swing outward, and once again you're assaulted by sensory overload. The
Mediterranean sun blindingly bright after the tunnel's darkness, the crowd's roar physically palpable like a wave crashing against your body.
50,000 spectators fill the Colosseum's tiered seating, a living mosaic of humanity from every stratum of Roman society. The pompa begins its circuit of the arena, gladiators marching in precise formation, while musicians play and standard-bearers display the emblems of each ludus. Unlike your first appearance, you now notice spectators pointing as you pass, recognizing you from your previous victory. Some call your fighting name Thrax, Thrax, while others make gambling gestures indicating bets placed on or against you. The procession halts before the editor's box, where today's sponsors recline in comfort alongside other dignitaries. Among them sits a stern-faced man wearing a toga with a purple stripe, the emperor's representative, whose assessment will influence future imperial patronage of games. Ave, editor, morituri te salutant. The traditional salute echoes across the sand. Those who are about to die salute you, a ritual phrase that originated when gladiatorial combat was closely associated with funeral rites for the honored dead. After completing the circuit, the fighters, not scheduled for immediate combat, return to the holding area beneath the stands. You remain near the arena entrance as your bout follows soon after the opening match. While waiting, you perform final stretches and mental preparation, half listening to the crowd's reactions to the first bout. From the shifting sounds of approval and disappointment, you gather that the combat is competent but unexceptional, neither fighter taking risks that might bring glory or death. Mediocre, mutters Pollux, who has stayed with you for final counsel. The crowd grows restless. They crave excitement after such tepid exchanges. The opening bout concludes without fatality, both gladiators spared after demonstrating adequate skill with little inspiration. The crowd's response is polite, but lacks enthusiasm, a dangerous situation for subsequent fighters, as spectators disappointed by early matches often demand greater spectacle from those who follow. The second match features more experienced gladiators, a provocator against a secutor, and the crowd's energy noticeably increases as the fighting demonstrates higher skill and commitment. The clash of their weapons carries clearly to the holding area, as do the spectators' appreciative shouts at particularly impressive exchanges. A massive cheer signals the second bout's conclusion. No death, but a decisive victory that satisfied the audience's expectations. The energy in the Colosseum has shifted, the crowd now properly engaged and receptive rather than restless and demanding. "You're next," announces an official. "Final preparations now. You don your helmet," the world instantly narrowing to what's visible through the eye holes. This sensory restriction, a necessary protection in combat, requires adjustment, but your training has prepared you to fight with limited vision and hearing. Pollux offers final advice. Remember, the Hoplomachus wants you at spear's length. Deny him his preferred distance. Close when he expects retreat. Retreat when he expects advance. Disrupt his rhythm. You take position at the gate, adrenaline surging through your body, heart pounding against your ribs. Across the arena, at an opposite entrance, Titus Acutus does the same. In moments, you'll face an undefeated killer before tens of thousands of spectators, with your growing reputation and possibly your life at stake. "Citizens of Rome," calls the announcer. Our next contest features two warriors of exceptional skill. From Capua, with 5 victories and no defeats, the Hoplomachus Titus Acutus, called the Spear. Titus enters to substantial applause. An established fighter with a perfect record commands respect even from spectators with no personal loyalty to him. He performs a practiced entry, demonstrating his spear's control with a series of precise
movements that showcase his technique without wasting energy.
And facing him, from the ludus of Batiatus here in Rome, with 1 victory already earned in this very arena, the Thraex who defeated the mighty Gallus in his debut appearance. Your reception is notably divided. Some spectators cheer the rising, local fighter who previously defied the odds, while others doubt your ability to challenge Titus's perfect record. This split reaction creates a unique energy, with different sections of the crowd invested in opposing outcomes. You stride onto the sand with deliberate confidence, remembering Pollux's constant emphasis on the theatrical aspects of gladiatorial combat. From the moment of entry, the performance begins. Not just fighting skill, but presence, character, and connection with the audience determine a gladiator's fate. 20 paces separate you from Titus as you take your starting positions. Through your helmet's eye holes, you study his stance, balanced, relaxed, experienced. His Hoplomachus equipment includes a rounded helmet with a stylized crest, a small, round shield palmula on his left arm, a spear, hasta, in his right hand, and a dagger, pugio, at his waist for close combat if needed. The Summa Rudis, today an especially distinguished retired gladiator who once fought before emperors, steps between you with his staff raised. "Clean fight," he instructs. "Respond to my signals. Honor in victory, dignity in defeat. Begin when the trumpet sounds." A moment of breathless anticipation falls over the Colosseum as 50,000 spectators collectively hold their breath. You settle into your fighting stance, shield forward, seeker held at middle guard, weight balanced on the balls of your feet, ready for explosive movement in any direction. The signal sounds, and immediately you implement the strategy developed over weeks of specialized training. Rather than waiting defensively as Titus might expect from a less experienced opponent, you move laterally at an angle that forces him to adjust his position before establishing his preferred fighting distance. Titus responds with the composed adjustment of a veteran, pivoting to maintain his facing towards you while extending his spear in a warning gesture. The Hoplomachus fighting style relies on keeping opponents at the optimal distance for spear strikes while preventing them from closing to where the weapon becomes disadvantageous. The first exchange unfolds with lightning speed. Titus launches a probing spear thrust toward your lead leg, which you deflect with your shield while simultaneously stepping to your right, refusing to be backed into a linear retreat that would favor his fighting style. The knowledgeable portions of the crowd appreciate this technical exchange, recognizing the tactical chess match unfolding before them. Arena combat at its highest levels involved sophisticated strategy rather than mindless aggression. The fight develops through a series of increasingly complex exchanges. Titus demonstrates why he remains undefeated. His spear work is exceptional, the weapon seeming to extend his will directly toward your vulnerabilities. Only your intensive preparation against this specific fighting style allows you to counter effectively, using the curved psyche to deflect the spear's point rather than block it directly. A minute into the bout, Titus launches his first committed attack sequence, a lightning combination of spear thrusts targeting multiple zones, followed by a shield rush attempting to disrupt your balance. You weather the assault with the defensive skills honed through weeks of specialized training, though one spear thrust grazes your upper arm, drawing first blood. The sight of blood energizes the crowd, their collective voice swelling as the combat's intensity increases. Titus, encouraged by landing the first telling blow, presses his advantage with renewed aggression. Here you implement the core of Pollux's strategy, using Titus's increased commitment against him. As he advances, expecting you to retreat from his superior reach, you instead step inside his spear's effective range, your seeker slashing toward the arm that holds his palmula. The unexpected advance catches Titus momentarily off guard. A hoplomachus trains extensively to prevent exactly this situation. Your seeker finds its target, cutting across his shield arm just below the protective manica. Not a disabling wound, but significant enough to draw blood and demonstrate your threat. The audience responds enthusiastically to this evidence of a genuine contest. They've seen too many mismatched bouts where the outcome was never in doubt. Your ability to challenge the undefeated Titus creates the delicious uncertainty that makes for compelling spectacle. Titus adjusts to your willingness to close distance, modifying his approach to incorporate more shield work and keeping his spear at middle position where it can defend as well as attack. You circle constantly, denying him the static positioning that best suits his fighting style, forcing him to pivot repeatedly, which gradually taxes his stamina. 5 minutes into the bout, an eternity in the oxygen-depriving confines of a gladiator's helmet, both of you show signs of fatigue. Breathing becomes labored, movements fractionally slower, reactions slightly delayed. This critical phase often determines outcomes, as technical skill becomes compromised by physical exhaustion. Sensing the fight's momentum approaching a critical juncture, Titus gambles on a committed attack sequence, a lightning advance behind his shield, followed by a low spear thrust targeting your forward leg. It's expertly executed, difficult to defend against even when anticipated. Your counter comes from the specialized training designed specifically for this opponent. Rather than retreating or attempting to parry the spear, you pivot laterally, while sweeping your Caesar downward in a hooking motion that catches the spear shaft just behind its head. For a crucial moment, your weapons are entangled. His spear caught by your seeker's curve, neither of you able to strike effectively. It becomes a contest of raw strength and balance, both fighters straining to control the engagement's direction. The spectators recognize this decisive moment, their roar reaching deafening intensity as they witness the contest's potential turning point. In the imperial box, even the dignitaries lean forward, momentarily dropping their affected nonchalance in the face of genuine drama. With a desperate surge of strength, you twist your seeker while simultaneously driving your shoulder into Titus's shield, breaking the weapon entanglement in a manner that unbalances him. His backward step finds unexpected, uneven ground, perhaps a depression left from earlier bouts, and he stumbles, his normally perfect balance compromised. You capitalize instantly on this rare opportunity, your seeker flashing toward the gap between his helmet and shoulder armor. The blade finds flesh, cutting a clean line across his upper chest. Not life-threatening, but definitely significant, blood flowing freely down his armor. Titus recovers his balance quickly, the mark of his veteran experience, but the wound disadvantages him in multiple ways. Beyond the physical impact, it represents the first time he's been significantly wounded in his perfect career, a psychological blow that subtly affects his subsequent fighting approach. The bout continues through further exchanges, but its character has fundamentally changed. Titus fights more conservatively, his previously fluid offense now more measured. You press your psychological advantage while carefully avoiding overcommitment that might expose you to his still dangerous counters. 7. Minutes into the fight, an exceptionally long bout by gladiatorial standards, both of you reach the limits of endurance. Each breath burns in oxygen-starved lungs. Each movement requires conscious effort against muscles threatening failure. This is when accidents happen, when survival depends on instinct and training rather than conscious tactical decisions. Titus makes his final committed assault, a desperate combination of spearwork and shield bashing designed to overwhelm your fading defenses. It's powerful, skillful, born of his undefeated fighting experience but compromised by his wound and fatigue. You weather the assault, though not unscathed. His spear tip finds your thigh, adding a fresh wound to your collection. But in committing fully to this attack, Titus creates the opening Pollux predicted would eventually come. As his spear extends fully in a thrust that narrowly misses your torso, you hook your seeker around the shaft near his grip and pull while simultaneously driving your shield into his extended arm. The combination tears the weapon from his grasp, sending it spinning across the sand. In an instant, the dynamic transforms completely. Without his primary weapon, Titus must draw his Pugio dagger, still dangerous, but at a severe disadvantage, against your seeker's reach. He retreats, creating space to draw his secondary weapon, but you press forward, denying him time to adjust to this new reality. The crowd senses the bout's conclusion approaching, their noise building toward crescendo. As you advance on your disadvantaged opponent, Titus fights valiantly with his dagger and shield, his technique flawless even in extremity, but the contest's outcome is now virtually certain. Your final attack targets his leading leg, a sweeping cut with your sicker that catches him just above the knee. He collapses to the sand, still defending himself with shield raised but effectively immobilized. The Summer Rudy steps between you, staff raised to halt the action. "Enough!" he declares, his authority absolute in this moment. The bout is decided. Titus lies on the sand, defeated but conscious, blood seeping from multiple wounds, but none immediately life-threatening. Following protocol, he raises his finger in the signal requesting mercy, the missio that passes his fate to the editor and crowd. You stand over him, breathing heavily but victorious, awaiting the verdict that will determine whether you're defeated. Opponent lives or dies. Though the decision nominally belongs to the editor, in practice it reflects the will of the crowd, whose judgment now fills the Colosseum with competing chants. The spectators' reaction is split, some impressed by both. Gladiator's skill and courage advocating mercy, others bloodthirsty after a lengthy, dramatic contest, demanding the ultimate conclusion. The polis verso gestures flow throughout the stands, thumbs pressing for death, concealed thumbs for mercy. The editor rises from his seat, consulting, briefly, with the Emperor's representative, whose opinion carries particular weight. After a moment's deliberation, he extends his hand with thumb concealed, the signal for mercy. The verdict meets general approval. Both gladiators have fought with exceptional skill and courage, providing premium entertainment that deserves recognition rather than terminal punishment. Even those who called for death seem satisfied with the decision's justice, if disappointed in their bloodlust. You step back as attendants rush forward to assist Titus and assess his wounds. Despite defeat ending his perfect record, he has maintained his dignity and fighting spirit throughout, qualities the Romans valued even above victory. Officials approach bearing the symbols of your victory, the palm branch, and a significantly larger purse than your previous triumph earned. The editor himself presents these rewards, a mark of how impressed he and the other dignitaries were by the spectacle. "Exceptional combat," he declares, loud enough for nearby spectators to hear. Skill, courage, and artistry combined. Rome honors such warriors. The crowd's chant builds around you, "Thraex! Thraex! Thraex!" No longer an anonymous fighter, but a recognized gladiator with growing reputation. In the strictly hierarchical world of arena combat, you've climbed several more rungs toward the highest echelon. Following tradition, you make a victory circuit of the arena, acknowledging the crowd's acclaim with raised weapons. Spectators in the lower tiers reach toward you, some throwing tokens or flowers, others calling for your attention specifically. This personal connection with the audience was vital to a gladiator's continued success and potential survival in future bouts. You exit through the Porta Triumphalis, the gate of triumph reserved for victorious gladiators, rather than the Porta Libitinaria, through which the dead and defeated departed. The symbolic significance of this distinction was profound in gladiatorial culture. The underground chambers receive you with the same abrupt transition from public spectacle to private reality that followed your first victory. Medical attendants immediately surround you, assessing your wounds, providing treatment for the spear cut on your thigh and various minor injuries. Pollux appears, his scarred face displaying genuine pride rather than his usual stern assessment. "Perfect execution of our strategy," he says. "You've established yourself now, not just a lucky novice, but a legitimate arena fighter with tactical intelligence." Batiatus arrives, surrounded by wealthy patrons, his face flushed with the excitement of successful investment and substantial gambling winnings. "My champion!" he exclaims. "Twice victorious, defeating an undefeated gladiator. Your value increases exponentially." The sponsors study you with new appreciation, no longer a speculative investment, but a proven commodity in the gladiatorial Thai marketplace. Their conversation revolves around future opportunities, more prominent matchups, potential special exhibitions that might feature your growing skills. The Saturnalia Games, next month, suggests one patrician. A featured bout, perhaps? The crowd clearly responds to his authentic Thracian fighting style. If he continues to impress, adds another, specialized private exhibitions become possible. Exclusive demonstrations for select audiences command premium fees. The business of gladiatorial combat was sophisticated and multi-layered, with successful fighters generating revenue through public games, private exhibitions, endorsements, and even appearance fees. Your return to the Ludus becomes a minor triumph procession, with Batiatus showcasing his victorious investment to the entire facility. The other gladiators greet you with newfound respect. Even veterans acknowledge your achievement in defeating an unbeaten opponent in only your second arena appearance. The evening brings celebration, special food, undiluted wine, even musicians brought in to entertain the Ludus's elite fighters. Your accommodations improve again, moving to chambers reserved for established champions, with additional comforts including proper bathing facilities and even limited personal servants. During a quieter moment, Darius joins you away from the main celebration. The veteran's weathered face carries a thoughtful expression unusual for his typically stoic demeanor. "2 victories," he says, studying you carefully, "against increasingly difficult opponents. You're on the path now, the path to potential freedom." This was the ultimate aspiration for many gladiators, to win sufficient glory and wealth to purchase or be granted their freedom. The wooden sword, rudis, symbolizing honorable discharge from arena obligations, represented a distant but genuine possibility for the most successful fighters.
"How many more victories?" you ask, genuinely curious about his assessment. "Depends," he replies pragmatically. "For ordinary freedom, perhaps 10 total if they're impressive enough. For the rudis, the ceremonial discharge in the arena itself,
15, maybe 20, with no embarrassing defeats." The road ahead remains long and perilous. Many promising gladiators perished just when freedom seemed within reach. But for the first time, you can visualize a potential conclusion to this strange existence between slavery and celebrity. As the celebration continues around you, your thoughts turn to the future, the next bout, the next opponent, the next opportunity to advance toward that distant freedom. The gladiator's life is a constant cycle of preparation, performance, and survival, each victory opening the door to more dangerous challenges. Later, alone in your upgraded chambers, you examine the rewards of your victory, the substantial purse that remains in Batiatus's keeping, but with a portion credited to your eventual manumission price, the ceremonial palm branch symbolizing triumph, and various tokens thrown by appreciative spectators. Among these tokens, you find something unexpected, a small clay lamp bearing the image of a Thraex gladiator in victory pose, clearly crafted before today's games. Such commemorative items were common in Roman popular culture, but this represents the first physical evidence that your growing reputation has entered the commercial marketplace. The lamp symbolizes something profound, your transformation from anonymous slave to recognized public figure. For better or worse, you've become part of Rome's vast entertainment complex. Your identity, now inseparable from your arena persona. You place the lamp on a small shelf, its flame casting flickering shadows across your chamber. Tomorrow begins the cycle anew, recovery, training, preparation for the next challenge. The path stretches before you, paved with blood and sand, leading either to freedom or death. This is the reality of the gladiator's existence. Suspended between degradation and adoration, between slavery and celebrity. Each victory brings improved conditions, greater privilege, enhanced status, but also deadlier opponents and higher expectations. The crowd's favor is fickle, their memory short. Today's champion becomes tomorrow's sacrifice when fortune or skill falters. Yet within this brutal paradigm, you've found something unexpected, a measure of control over your destiny. Each skillful performance, each survival, each victory represents a step toward potential freedom. The odds remain steeply against you, but they're better than the complete powerlessness of ordinary slavery. As you prepare for sleep, your body aching from combat, but your spirit sustained by triumph, you contemplate the strange journey from captured enemy soldier to celebrated
arena fighter.
The Romans who cheer your victories are the same people whose legions destroyed your homeland, yet in the bizarre moral economy of the ludus and arena, you've found a path to potential redemption through the very violence that enslaved you. Tomorrow brings a new day in this cycle, more training, more preparation, more strategic development for the next deadly performance. The sand awaits, as it always does, ready to absorb sweat, blood, and the footprints of men fighting for survival and glory. For tonight, however, you've earned your rest as a victorious gladiator, a man who has twice faced death in the arena and twice emerged triumphant. In ancient Rome's complex social hierarchy, few achievements commanded more visceral respect. Sleep claims you eventually, your exhausted body surrendering to necessary recovery. Your dreams blend triumph and terror, glory and brutality, the psychological legacy of arena combat that even the most successful gladiators carried throughout their lives and beyond. The Roman philosopher Seneca once observed of gladiators, "They ward off all blows that are directed at the face, but they do not withdraw their necks. How much more does this apply to us, who should face all terrors without turning our backs?" In the dark heart of the ludus, surrounded by men who understand exactly what you've experienced because they've lived it themselves, you've found a peculiar kind of home, a brotherhood forged in shared danger, mutual respect. and the unique perspective of those who regularly confront their own mortality for the entertainment of others. Tomorrow awaits with its challenges and opportunities, but for now, you rest as what you have become. A Roman gladiator, twice victorious, increasingly famous, tentatively advancing along the perilous path that might, with exceptional skill and considerable luck, eventually lead to freedom. The sand will always be there, waiting for your return. The cycle continues as it has for centuries and will for centuries more, until distant future generations look back in fascination and horror at this strange spectacle of death and glory that so
captivated the mightiest civilization the ancient world had ever known. Sleep well, gladiator. Tomorrow we fight again.